of democracy? And is money in politics simply a byproduct of the capitalist system in which we live, which is good? We're going to find out tonight. We got a full roster. Thank you for coming by, Song and Stu. I see you in the chat as well as on the screen here. Uh, Chiba Hawk, nice to see you. Wolf of Mandalore, Bing Bong Indeed, Scott Miller, hello. But introductions aside, let's give these wonderful people an introduction statement, opening statements, and then, yeah, we'll get started. And we're going to start with Average Debate Enjoyer. Go ahead, give us what you got.
What's going on? So I am gonna go pretty hard and say that hating money in politics is essentially soft election denial, and it's often used as proof of corruption when you're talking about the people you dislike in politics, and excused when it's the people doing it that you enjoy in politics. So I see this all stemming from kind of well, I mean, this argument has existed for a long time, but the most recent iteration of this argument stems from the 2015, 2016 Bernie movement against money in politics and lobbying and such. It kind of bled over to Trump supporters a little bit in 2016 due to how the funding went in that election as well. Um, if you don't think it came from leftists, I can show you all sorts of old TYT Wolfpack things and things like that. It's pretty anti First Amendment. I prepared some stuff about Citizens United in case we actually get into that as well. But money is speech, and that's kind of been declared as in the Supreme Court to be such. So you should be able to give as much speech as you want as long as it's not directly tied to the candidate.
Okay, well, thank you for being here. I'm sure we will get into it as we go. Admiral Gibbs, what do you have? Go ahead.
Listen, lobbying is as American. Oh, I'm Admiral Gibbs, first of all. Lobbying is as American as apple pie, NASCAR, and handing out ass whoopings in world wars. Capitalism is base. Lobbying is basically the equivalent of that. He mentioned money is speech. That's right. I have this cool thing right here called a checkbook. I know many of you poor bastards watching this don't know what that is, but if I want to write a check to my local representative along with a letter, and it's go as long as it follows campaign finance funds, guess what? That's going to be a lot more influential and getting my point across than sitting here playing Tweedledum and Tweedledee, Tweedledum, Piddly Dicks, and all this bullshit that people want to sit here and cry about. I could go sit here and protest like the Palestinian protesters and get nothing done, or I could write a check and we can actually get something done. Lobbying, not only that, helps get bills written and actually cuts down on the workload, thus reducing American taxpayer dollars because a lot of these lobbyists write the bills for the senators and House Representatives people or work alongside with them. And that way, it's less work for them, and they have to pay their staffers less. And that's a good thing because that means more tax dollars staying in my pocket. So, in the end, only the poor people and the people that have skill issue hate lobbyists.
Okay. Well, we're gonna have a good discussion tonight. I can feel it. I can feel it already. Alex Kirsch, please. What do you have?
Yeah, I'm Alex Kirsch from the Alex Kirsch Project. When it comes down to lobbyists, I truly do believe that they actually do more harm than good. I don't think enough people know actually who owns are politicians. Essentially, that happens both on the left and on the right. Now, I remember when former governor of Minnesota, Jesse Ventura, actually said, I think politicians should wear NASCAR uniforms. That way we know who truly owns them, essentially. Like, for example, you've got somebody being represented by Monsanto or BNSF or whatever. That way we know who actually is in the pockets of the politicians whose pocket whatnot. Now, lobbyists have had politicians in their pocket for some time, and I feel like at the most it doesn't really help the American people. It actually silences them. Now, the will of the people that are wealthy is actually put ahead of the majority of this country, and that's where I stand on this.
Okay. Some disagreement. Let's get into it. We'll
Mhm.
find out, but we gotta get through everyone here. Lactoid TV. Hi.
Hey, I'm Lactoid. You can find me on Lactoid TV everywhere. My position on this is that lobbying itself is fine in the sense of when people say money is speech, what they're referring to is the fact that, just like you can pay an attorney or pay somebody to go speak on your behalf, you should also be able to come together, pool money, and make a movie or write a book that disagrees with a certain politician. In the same way that you can disagree with advertisements, or you can advertise on behalf of a specific politician that you like. So in that sense, it is, I think, First Amendment protected. There's other things that money's involved in with politics, though, that I think is a problem, including politicians buying stocks. I would want to get rid of that. I think that should be against the law, but keep lobbying.
thanks for being here, and I'm sure we will find out what everyone else thinks in just a minute. Parallax. Hi.
Hi, how are you? I'm Parallax. You can find me on Twitch. I play video games and yell at people sometimes. For me, I feel like the fundamental difference between a world with lobbying and a world without lobbying is that lobbying creates a system where the government is working in the interest of the private sector and not the public. Obviously, corporations, PACs, and the like are going to be able to come up with more funds than individuals, and as such, their interests are the ones most commonly represented by the most well-funded lobbyists. And we see this bear out in results where, the majority of the country wants one thing, and there is, absolutely no movement on, these things. For example, gun control. The majority of the country agrees that we should have more than we currently have, irrespective of where on that spectrum you lie, and yet we don't move anywhere with it. And this is largely due to lobbying. And I think that having that much money involved in the private sector and their ability to leverage capital for votes and for their interests turns our political system into one that focuses more on the private sector than the public.
Okay, well, thank you for being here. And before we get to Rashad, $10 from Pondering Politics to say hi to Alex, Rashad. Where are Lactoids Chaps? Gibbs, you excited for the Acolyte? I guess, well, thank you for the $10, and we'll get into all that. Not this panel, but another panel. Today we're doing the politics thing, Pondering, okay? And let us do the politics. Rashad, lobbying and money in politics. What are your thoughts? Go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Josiah? I saw Josiah. Josiah said something. Yeah, I think lobbying is perfectly fine. I think that it's sometimes a larger financial manifestation of what some people tend to want. I don't think that it's an issue. I think that if someone simply dislikes the fact that a company lobby to a certain politician, you can always just vote that politician out and replace them with someone who's not interested in passing that bill. I don't think that lobbyists are being held at I don't think that politicians are being held at gunpoint by lobbyists. I think they choose to simply enact legislation they were going to enact anyways, and that's just my take.
Well, thank you for being here. We'll get into it as we go. Last but certainly not least, Slongy and Stu. Go ahead.
So I'm Stu from the Slongy and Stu YouTube channel. I would like to do a moment of correction for Admiral Gibbs. So I'm both wealthy and highly skilled, and I do not like lobbying. So it's poor and unskilled people. I'm sorry that we have one data point, right? We'll call it an anecdote. So lobbying is bad because it gives an undue amount of power to people who may have financial interests. The return on investment for lobbying to lobbyists is very high. And if America would like to have a system where the voice of the people is really enacted, then I think, although it is protected speech currently, I think that there could be more harm than good from that.
Okay, and with that, let's get this party started. I'll open it up. If you have trouble getting in, just raise your hand, DM me or something, let me know, and I'll try to give you space. We got a little more than we usually do, so we're gonna try to be I'm gonna be a little heavier handed on the moderation, right? But we'll find out. And with that, the floor is open. What do you guys got?
I kind of want to relegate the conversation, go back to the first principles a little bit. So we kind of don't argue semantics on other things. I kind of hear the lobbying arguments. A lot of what they're saying is that the rich have more access to lobbyists than the non-rich do. That's kind of everybody here agrees with that roughly, generally, and that's your guys' problem essentially with lobbies is that the wealthiest classes get more access. So really we're arguing about money in politics, and lobbyist is just kind of a placeholder for the money in politics argument. So really, like, if we kind of more shift toward that, I feel like it would get the first principle of the argument more so than anything. But in terms of Parallax specifically, you were talking about the gun control lobby and gun polling and whatnot. Though you did cite a couple polls accurately, the aggregate looks a bit different than that. One and two, the pro-gun lobby, I have some data in here you might want to take a look at. The pro-gun lobby usually gets outspent by the anti-gun lobbies, like by Bloomberg and Soros and funded groups, sometimes 10 to 1. the reason why the NRA has a lot of power is not because of the money it spends. It's actually a very low money group in terms of political donation. It's because of their size. They're like millions and millions of people strong, and they can turn out a lot of votes in a lot of areas where most people don't usually engage.
To be clear, the only reason I mention that is one area where I know this to be the case. It is not the hill I'm going to die on here. I'm not here for gun control. I'm
Oh, for
simply
sure, for
saying
sure.
that the disparate outcomes can be that we are having an outcome that is more beneficial to private sector interests than public sector interests, more beneficial to private corporations than it is to the people that we elect these representatives to serve.
Well,
Yeah,
if anything, the gun control lobby, like that, one of the things that's doing is sitting here standing up for the rights of, if even what you're saying is true, which I don't think it's true. But let's just say, even if it is the minority people that don't want gun control or stricter gun laws, they're standing up for the minority, and they're standing up for the morals and the values that this nation was built upon. And not only that, they're standing up for the morals and values that Texas was built upon. We've sat here and we fought tyrannical powers, and lobbyists are helping prevent people from, like yourself, who want gun control, from sitting here and enforcing this tyrannical regime. So that's one more point for lobbying.
Well,
Now
they're
you're
also
one
pushing
for the
anti-gun legislation
grandstander.
too, though, right?
Yeah, well, the good news is
at a
the
much
NRA is
higher
going to defend
rate.
them.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
that we should like look at. I don't think that we should be looking at just like the raw consequences. I think it's more interesting to look at the actual principle of the matter. Where if you're against lobbying, I think you have to be against. You have to admit to being against freedom of speech to some extent, right? Like the Citizens United case was like Citizens United wanted to put out a film that was criticizing Hillary Clinton, right? And it was like within the essentially it was an attack ad, really. But they wanted to put out like a film against Hillary Clinton. Are you guys in favor of preventing organizations from coming together and putting out like books, films, ads against particular candidates? Would you ban that behavior?
I think you have the cure for the problem there, right? Like rather than lobbyists taking out representatives for fundraising lunches, if those groups want to make adverts that might influence public opinion, you get rid of the immediate contact of the temptation or greed, and then you also get to share your message with a larger audience, and then the public's opinion may change, and then they should influence their representatives.
Well, here the problem isn't so much about like making ads or stuff like that against a political. That's not what we're talking about. We're basically talking about, like, for example, if you've got a major corporation like Monsanto, right? They buy spheres of influence within government. Basically, they can actually push forward stuff because it fits their agenda. And it's because they've got the money, they've got the influence, they've got the power, even if it's not necessarily good for the American people. Now, you could have a smaller fish in the farming and agricultural industry. They might have a better product, but they're going to get basically pushed out because Monsanto has more power and influence. And because they got more politicians in their pocket, essentially, that's the kind of stuff we're talking about. That's the kind of corruption we're bringing up.
I think you guys are missing how it works, though, right? How lobbying primarily works is like you'll have a super PAC, which is nominally independent from the candidate, right? It can't interact with a candidate. It has to like stay separate, but it advocates for that candidate's interests. And people or separate organizations can come together and create ads, write books, etc. And this is what lobbying is, right? Putting out information, putting out media, advocating for a particular position, going to Congress and advocating to Congress for a particular position. It's not the same as just like giving politicians money directly.
Well, it's legislation. That's what they're doing. They're actually giving, like, what they're
They're
doing.
pushing
like,
for legislation, right?
Pushing for legislation, essentially, right?
You mentioned
Well, of course.
Monsanto, though, right? Corporations are people. They're made up of people. They are people. I mean, I don't understand how, like, you sit here and say, "Oh, they're not representing a portion of the United States or whatever." Monsanto employs thousands of people, so clearly they're looking out for their best interest. I don't like. So you're gonna sit here and say, "Oh, they shouldn't do that. That's so bad." Well, I'm sorry that these other people aren't as skilled as Monsanto's lobbyists. I'm sorry these little producers. Hey, they might have a better product. I guess what? If you can't sell that better product, better sell to Monsanto, because Big Boy gonna put you out of business because you can't do your job as good as they can.
No, here's the problem though. Monsanto has been known to actually like have some of their crop to actually buy out other farmers. What they do is like some of their crops, like their soybean crops, ends up in other people's fields, and then they actually take them to court. And because they're so wealthy, they got so many different lawyers out there, they end up crushing these smaller farmers, and because the smaller farmers can't afford to stay in lawsuit for that. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about.
That sounds like tough.
Well,
kids.
that's not that doesn't necessarily sound like a lobbying. That just sounds like really insidious and evil use of the law. But as it pertains to big companies working against the will of the people, I mean, organic products do cost a bit more. How do we know that the people really do want to pay that extra price for organic products in contrast to a, Monsanto GMO product? How do we know what the true will of the people actually is? I think the true will of the people's wallets is to pay for something a bit cheaper. So even if a big company is, blasting through like the Kool-Aid man, oh yeah, into the building and fucking everybody else's legislation over, how do we know that their bullying, so to speak, isn't an indirect manifestation of what the people want?
So Alex,
Despite-
Parallax, and Stu, I kind of heard you guys all again here. I'm really trying to. I listened to a lot of arguments from your side before this. I'm really trying to hear you out. Your argument here isn't so much with the action of lobbying itself. It's again how much access people with money have, and they can get more lobbyists. Thus, it gives them a leg up in the game. So you're trying to take away a mechanism, but the real problem is money in politics. Unfair amounts of money coming in from larger holders of money. So I kind of want to propose something to you that would make you at least alleviate some of your fears, and it's the diminishing returns on money theory that in terms of politics. Like there's a certain amount of threshold you have to meet. You have to be able to hire staff to do X and Y and Z, and you have to have some internal polling and this and that. There's a certain X money threshold that needs to be met, absolutely. But once you get to a certain point in money, the more you take in after that, it starts falling off in terms of the value of that specific dollar. The diminishing returns on that money starts to lose effect. So a lot of these companies are spending way more than they have to get policies done. They're actually pumping more money into a system. At the end of the day, it takes money away from the richest people, and it doesn't even work. We see voters constantly overrule money when something needs to be done.
They're
This is
probably
actually
paying more
untrue.
advertising.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
This is actually untrue. Lobbying funds generate between 7 and 8% growth year over year on the whole, which is better than any savings account you can go get. And if your stock portfolio performed that well, you'd be pretty satisfied. Lobbyists
6 to
make
7?
way more money than they put. 6 to 7%, yeah.
Yeah, if a
Or
stock
sorry,
portfolio,
7 to 8% rather.
yeah, the average S&P 500 returns is 7 to 10%. It's under the
Okay,
stock
I don't want to
market
get
return.
I don't want to get stuck on
Right,
terrible
irrespective.
returns.
Point is, they do not spend more money than they make. They make money out of it.
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
they
It's a
spend
business.
they make more money. I think they spend more money on advertising than they do anything else. Like as far as like lobbying is concerned, but you kind of get where I'm understand where I'm coming from though, right? Because like they can actually buy more influence like within our essential government. I mean, don't you think there could also be like a conflict of interest at times? Like for example, if let's say, for example, company A tries to pass something and it gets shot down because they have so many politicians in Congress. It's not because they think it's better. It's just because they're stuck because that company has that politician essentially in their pocket. Don't you think it's kind of a problem, though?
I don't see the proof that just because you took money, you're in somebody's pocket. That's kind of it wasn't my introduction.
Well,
is that we assume that like when the people we like take a bunch of union money, it's like, oh cool, they're taking union money, and then they turn around and do things for unions. That's literally what a politician's supposed to do. Is
Well, it's
take
just
They shouldn't take the money.
yeah,
Well,
so
arguably,
It's
they're
there
not
for the
taking
union.
union money, right?
that's how it works.
I mean,
Like
how often do we see legislation not pass because a few guys got paid a few bucks and shit went left? Usually it seems to be that politicians who don't want to, who don't believe in a bill, usually just fucking derail it. I mean, we see tons of that going on right now. I think we haven't passed as many. We haven't passed so few bills since the Great Depression, and we're on track to not having passed as many bills since the Civil War. I don't know if that's coming from people just, I don't know if it's from, big companies just making it ring on these politicians like it's Magic City. I would have to imagine a lot of politicians just don't fucking believe in a lot of stuff, and it's not getting passed because they don't believe in it. I can't think of a single important bill where somebody just made it rain and derail the entire thing. But if I'm wrong, I'm happy to be corrected.
we are passing less legislation. Biden's
Well-
first year, I think, was a 50-year low for the first year of a president. 11 pieces of legislation.
I don't think that's true, actually.
I could look it up. It's been a couple of years since I saw the article.
If I may,
Mhm.
the argument against that, Rashad, would be that not that there are corporations and such coming in to derail laws that would otherwise benefit the people. It's that politicians are given cutbacks in paychecks, right? Promised a lot of gifts in order to push through legislation that benefits certain companies or constituencies. AIPAC is a good example of this, that a lot of accusations have been levied, that the reason that there's a lot of these bipartisan bills passing against quote unquote hate speech on campuses and things would be because of the money being funneled in by AIPAC, who has a very clear intention, a very clear goal, and wants to get it done. Whereas you can't really get hate speech laws passed for anything else. That would be the argument. Where is that wrong? Or why is that not a concern, I guess I'd ask.
Hold on. What the fuck is APAC? I'm looking it up and I keep seeing Asian Pacific blah blah
It's
blah.
the-
No, no.
AIPAC.
Oh, I'm like, what the fuck?
Oh
It's like
yeah,
American
American
Israeli.
Israel. Oh, okay,
It's
those
the
guys.
Israel
Okay,
pack.
I mean, we could always just vote out a politician who sits there and decides to take that money
Well-
and go through and pass a legislation to,
Well-
make XYZ thing anti-Semitic in a school.
Well, if I could, that's a lot easier said than done, actually. Like, for example, most politicians are just going to run for re-election because they're going to continue to get that funding essentially for their next campaigns. Very rarely do you see politicians just, get voted out of office because, like, I'm not trying to go too far off the rails because you've got people like Mitch McConnell. Everybody hates Mitch McConnell, but because he's a Republican, he's been in office for 40 plus years.
Well, hold on. His
Well,
constituents like him. His constituents.
Yeah,
like him.
they like him.
So, you're gonna sit here and say everybody hates him.
They keep voting
he
him
doesn't
in,
give a
yeah.
shit about. Yeah, he doesn't give a shit about everybody. He only
Yep.
cares about what his people want, which is the way it should be working. So I don't.
I'm
think
willing to bet.
point's a
I'm
bad
willing to
point.
bet that if Mitch McConnell said something not too nice about Donald Trump tomorrow at 5 p.m., his constituency might flip on him. Money be damned. It doesn't matter where the money's coming from, Jewish space lasers, whatever.
Hold on.
If he says something about Trump that people don't like, he might never win office again. I don't think it's money. I do believe the voter has the power to
Rashad.
undo.
To be fair, yeah.
Rashad, just real quick, you understand that campaigning costs money.
I understand
if
that.
you have a large war chest behind you where you can pay for advertising, you can pay for research, you can pay for Oppo research against anyone who might challenge you. You are able to have a huge operation in your ground game, and this is all funded by, again, AIPAC or other organizations or other lobbying firms, right? Which have deep ties to you and you have large connections with. You can see how there at least can be some concern over the influence that
Do you
these
think
groups
that can
have.
undo?
No?
If a politician pisses off their constituency enough, they can. As crazy and as chaotic as politics is now, I don't think that funding covers everything. It's important. It's incredibly important. But I do believe that if Marjorie Taylor Greene tomorrow woke up and said, guys, I think we should send money to Ukraine, she will get replaced by an actual more hardline populist MAGA supporter, regardless of how much money is put behind her. I'm not arguing that the money's ineffective, but what I am arguing is that it is possible to find a politician that's, argued to pass a bill that you don't like and get rid of them. And yes, money is a factor, but the voter does have an option and a choice. And I feel like a lot of people who are anti-lobbying forget the fact that, you can still vote them out. No amount of money is going to change that.
Yeah, I disagree wholeheartedly. I think you're dead wrong here. I think that one of the things that hasn't been brought up here is the Congress to lobby pipeline, and the obvious. We've talked about campaign finance. So sticking with what you're talking about, when you have these meetings with these lobbyists, you end up voting on the legislation as expected, and then a super PAC secures your entire war chest to fund your campaign reelection. That's a lot harder to defeat than you pissed off a couple of people with some comments. The reality is, in most races, though there have been some aberrations in the past few election cycles, in most races, the person who spends the most money wins. That's just the reality.
Okay, pissed off a couple of people. Hold on.
Let him finish. Let him finish.
Moreover, the incumbent also has the advantage statistically in elections in the United States. So if the incumbent is indeed the one receiving the lobbying funds, then there we have a twofold problem, wherein getting them out is much harder than it is to get them in.
Hold on. Pissing off a couple of people with some comments is different from making a statement. We have to also take into account the political climate. Like I just said, if Marjorie Taylor Greene tomorrow says we should send money to Ukraine, and what's another thing that, we should stop the bombing in Gaza. She can be the incumbent if she wants. She's getting replaced. It's just gonna happen, and we have to acknowledge the fact. Come on, these are serious, incredibly
Thank
key
you for the
talking
raid,
points.
Rune Black Live. Really
Okay, but
appreciate you.
These are incredibly key talking points that money can't solve.
If it takes you an extremely like absurdly unrealistic thing, then you're not actually making a salient point. This like hypotheticals serve a purpose for something that would not be a completely and utterly
Well,
farcical
we're talking
thing.
about bills
So
being passed that people don't want passed, which is like an extreme thing, is it not? Like important bills that people
No, it happens all the
people are
time.
being fucked. Okay, important bills that people genuinely care about, because people aren't crying about lobbying when it comes to bills that they generally don't give a fuck about. So situations that people genuinely care about, if an incredibly prominent politician does a full 180 and like maybe even just one extremely important topic, like if Joe Biden tomorrow decides, hey, now that I think about it, gun control, not that serious of a thing. AR-15s, don't really care. We can call it extreme if we want, though we do have to bring up the fact that politics has never been more extreme as it is today, and issues haven't been taken as seriously as they are today. And if you fuck up on these things, money matters, but it's possible that even if Joe Biden doesn't get outvoted as it pertains to Trump, votes could go to fucking RFK or some shit. These things can happen. I think the voter has a much more power to undo lobbying effects than we're willing to admit.
I mean, I just want to point out that everybody, I'll give you two examples of politicians that it feels like everybody hates. Everybody hates Ted Cruz. Everybody hates Greg Abbott, right? Outside of Texas, right? Oh, Greg Abbott's mean. He's putting inflatable unicorns with razor blades in the Rio Grande. Oh, he's so terrible. You know, all these things, everything that basically Rashad said. And then, so that's kind of, you know, basically he's doing all the bad things, all these terrible things. Then we look at Beto O'Rourke, who ran against him. Beto O'Rourke and Greg Abbott set funding records, right? And Beto O'Rourke outfunded him by like $3.1 million and still got an ass whipping because everybody hates him. There's not a problem with lobbying. That's not a
Or because
problem.
it's
Like,
Texas.
Hold
no,
on.
it's because people are putting forth bad candidates. That's why he lost. It's not an
It's
aberration.
fucking
If anything,
Texas.
if it's not an aberration to what you were talking about. It's
It
becoming a
is.
general trend that people are picking candidates that they want to see stay in power or put in power, as opposed to like, oh, it's just the money spent.
Well,
Not
no,
only
no.
is it a
People,
not only
people
an
vote.
Hold on,
outlier, not
one at
only
a time,
is
one
it-
at a time. Parallax, and then
Not
then
only
I
is it
want to
an
get other people in.
outlier-
I see you guys. Yeah.
not only is it an outlier to what I said, which is that the majority of people win based upon funding, it is also an incumbent winning, which is also an advantage that they have. And moreover, in a red state that had just barely gone towards what you could call purple, specifically because of shit like this. And Beto himself drove that bar far further. So him not winning the election doesn't support you.
Yeah, but the
as
backlash
you-
against
as you
Beto
think
has
it
been
does.
huge. Like now everybody hates Beto, right? So if anything, he's driven further red now. So like this is a prime example of a case where lobbying doesn't work. And so when people are sitting here crying, like, oh, it's just a skill issue. It's just crying.
Okay.
Like there's no real reason to actually hate the lobbying other than your guy didn't win.
I wanna make sure we get everyone gets a chance to speak. I saw Lactoid with his hand raised, as well as I know Alex was trying to get in, and I see you, average debate enjoyer. So that's the order we're gonna go in. Lactoid, Alex, Tyler, go.
Can I ask you guys, do you guys have an issue, like, because this is essentially what lobbying is, really. Would you guys have an issue if I put my own personal money into an advertisement or a book or a short film criticizing a politician? So if I get together with like a few of my friends and we pool our money to put together a book or an ad or a film against a politician, is that okay?
Go for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that you just described most lobbying, right? Citizens United specifically dealt with this, right? This is like the quintessential lobbying case where an organization just wanted to put out a film that was against Hillary Clinton, right? And they had pointed to Michael Moore's film and saying, hey, like, this is ridiculous. How is he able to make his film, but we can't make ours? And for a while, the court was simply saying, well, they're a real filmmaker. You're not really a real filmmaker, whatever the fuck that means. And the Supreme Court decided that that doesn't mean shit, right? Like, just because you're not a official film production studio doesn't mean you lose your freedom of speech. The First Amendment doesn't have a caveat where it's like, if you get enough people together, then they lose their freedom of speech. That's not how that works either. All lobbying is like some interested citizens, whether that interested citizens be part of a union, a group, a community, a corporation, or any other organization of individuals, and they get together and they pool their resources to hire spokespeople and advocates. Oftentimes lawyers. There's a reason why most of these lobbyists are lawyers, because lobbyists are essentially just defense attorneys for corporations or other interest groups in Congress, right? Against Congress or in favor of getting a particular outcome in Congress. So I don't see how you separate this from freedom of speech, right? This is absolutely like people advocating for their interests. And if you're willing to ban, if you're not willing to ban it from me, let's say I'm like super rich, right? If I'm super rich, I'm able to like influence elections by putting out ads and writing books, but a group of people coming together and forming like an interest organization, they can't compete with me now because they individually aren't wealthy enough.
So I don't think you're making a good comparison here. I think when you're talking about producing a film that would be against, say, Hillary Clinton, as you mentioned before, versus actually sitting down and, the active function of lobbying and trying to drive your agenda with the promise of either gifts or a job down the line or whatever it may be, we're talking about very, very different things. Produce any film, any media you want to produce. If the lobbies were just out here producing commercials to go against whatever or for whatever policy they were trying to support, I don't think we'd be having this conversation. But they're interacting directly with our politicians, and it's as simple as if the juice weren't worth the squeeze, why would they be doing it?
I think we disagree on what
if they weren't.
We don't agree what lobbying is.
Having an impact.
Like lobbying is not you give politicians a gift, like a personal gift for passing legislation
That's
that
just
you
an
want.
element of it.
No, that's not even an element of it. That's like bribery. That's not illegal, right? What lobbying is like citizens get together in like a organization and they put a lot of money into speech to try to get a person elected. Now, it's true that these PACs are going to say like, hey, you stop doing what we want you to do, and we're not going to start, we're going to stop running adverts in your favor, where we might start running adverts in a different politician's favor because they truly represent our interests now. But again, this is what freedom of speech is, right? If a politician stops doing what I want them to do, I'm not going to be going around telling people to vote for them anymore.
Okay, so we keep missing the point. We keep talking about, oh my God, my freedom of speech, freedom of speech. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about restricting people's freedom of speech, okay? Because here's the thing, and what we're talking about essentially is like where certain lobbyists will actually come in and get legislation passed. Let's say, for example, the rail industry. Hey, we want to push, and we're going to donate to all these politicians so we can get legislation passed to basically we can gut regulations, safety regulations specifically. That's not the best interest of the employees that work there, the workers and whatnot. Like you've got companies like BNSF, they're actually trying to pass legislation to where like you only need like one engineer in a train. That's exceedingly dangerous because this is a lot of freight that's getting moved from one side of the country to the next. And then but you've also got other legislation. You've got wealthy billionaires essentially. Like the Supreme Court is the one that ruled that, corporations are people and money is free speech, essentially. Well, look at Clarence Thomas. The guy benefits greatly from all these other billionaires. So he has a huge conflict of interest, essentially, which he's actually sits in on the Supreme Court, making decisions when he should be recusing himself, essentially. But because there's no checks and balances with the Supreme Court, that's hard to do. And to my final point before
Why should
we
he
like,
recuse himself? Wait, why should he
Where do
recuse himself?
the donations go?
What's the conflict of interest?
Like for example, like
specifically?
specific. Oh my God. Okay, I'll have to look up
we can go into like Clarence Thomas, but like you say they're donating to politicians. Where do those donations go?
It essentially goes like within to their campaigns. The middleman, the lobbyist, that basically goes towards the God damn it, towards their campaigns essentially.
Yeah, it goes towards organizations that are advocating for this person's election and advocating for this person's power.
Yeah, which helps them get what? To get elected, right? So
right, in the same way, if I go around telling people to vote for people, that also helps them get elected.
Yes, but are you okay? Are you actually trying to push through legislation? Are you pushing for certain legislation? Like, for example, let's say, if you're pushing legislation, right, to basically gut regulations, let's say to get rid of all seatbelts for cars.
I often do. Yes, I personally push for that legislation all the time.
To get rid of seatbelts for cars?
Yes, seatbelt. Well, hold on. Seatbelts should not be required for cars. It's ridiculous.
Why?
Because it's a freedom of choice issue. I shouldn't be forced by the government to wear seatbelts. It's crazy. I live in a country where I can ride a motorcycle, but all of a sudden, if I'm riding a car, like I'm in a car, and I don't have a seatbelt, I'm going to get a ticket. Crazy.
Before we get into this, I don't care about the specific issue at play with seatbelts. We're not debating seatbelts tonight.
I was asked the question, Wick, to be fair.
I understand.
I had one more point to make though. But
Nip
I'm
that in
sorry,
the bud.
Wick.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Wick.
make your point,
Yeah,
and then
but
yeah.
kind of going back to the whole thing, like Mitch McConnell, the reason why he keeps getting reelected is because no one's going to run against Mitch McConnell because he's been in power for so long. And the last time that they actually had like a Democrat and run against him, like she pretty much got slaughtered because she has no chance. People tend, like when they go to the voting booth, sometimes they don't even know who the politician is, or they don't even care, or they might hate this guy with their guts, but it's because he's a Republican. Boom, they're just going to vote for him. That's how it is across the board. Like you've got people don't even freaking like AOC in New York City. They're still going to vote. Why? Because she's a Democrat. That's how some people vote, essentially. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. Some people don't like Gray Abbott, but because he's a Republican, they're going to vote for him. Anyway,
But
sorry.
it's not.
I
just
agree.
that
This
with
is a
Mitch
problem, but that's
McConnell.
not about lobbying, right? That's about low
No,
information
it's not.
voters.
But that was just that was one of my points.
No, but
as
you're
to why
sitting
people
here,
think
you're blaming lobbying on Mitch McConnell when Mitch McConnell was wildly successful for getting barrel projects for his constituents, like wildly successful. He got all sorts of pork belly projects put into the federal budget. So like you're sitting here, you're pointing at an issue, saying this is the problem. This is why a Democrat or somebody else can't beat Mitch McConnell, as opposed to he's a fucking winner. Like that's the real issue. Like why would you ever want to vote out a winner? Like so, it's not the lobbying. Once again, that's the issue. It's that y'all are being sore losers. That's what's really happening here, and it's really,
no one's
really
saying that.
sad. It's exactly
No,
what
it's
you just
not.
said. You just were saying that about Greg
No,
Abbott and
that's
Mitch
not what I
McConnell.
said
You said a
whatsoever.
Democrat. Well, why did the Democrat get slaughtered? Was it because he's powerful and he'd been in place for so long, or was it because he's powerful and in place for so long because he's been doing the job well and getting the shit done for his constituents? It's B. It's
Has
not
he?
A. I'll go ahead and answer for you. Yeah, his I pulled up just out of curiosity while we were talking, and he's got. I mean, I can start listing them, but there's like just a list, and just the first top thing. It's got 52 different pork barrel projects, numbering in the millions. Just for agriculture alone, he's got one project that's 10 million that goes to his constituents. You got another one for the Appalachian Regional Commission, 9 million. So he's been wildly successful at bringing millions and millions and millions of federal dollars of projects to come into his thing. So to sit here and like, oh, it's lobbying, that's the only reason why he's in power, or oh, it's because he's the incumbent, that's bullshit, and that's just dismissing the fact that he's a wildly successful
Hold
politician
on.
for his constituents.
I have a question for the pro lobby side of things, if I may. You have a politician and he's approached by a corporation or an interest group, and this interest group says, "Hey, you are a powerful leader in Congress or the Senate. Maybe you're the House leader, right? Or maybe you're connected to them. We want you to push for deregulation on this product we're about to put out. And if you do this, when you retire, we have a seat for you on our board, and you can consult with us." What do we think of that? Freedom of speech?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
That one's
Hell no.
Gibbs. That one's tougher
That
because
sounds like bribery.
it's a little bit closer to
bribery.
bribery, honestly.
That sounds a
Yeah,
lot
that's
more
a
like
little closer to
bribery, and
bribery.
Yeah, it's
I don't
It's
even
legal,
know if
though.
that's.
That's absolutely
Is it legal?
I don't know how legal that is actually, Wick. I know that it happens, but when you say it like that explicitly, like if people found out about that,
Yeah.
there might be penalties associated with
Yeah,
that.
When you
why
say it,
shouldn't they do that?
okay, this is a problem I'm having with your side, though. When you say it explicitly, it becomes, I don't know. But
No,
we understand that they don't say these things explicitly, that there are some implicit things, exchanges going on in that communication where they can follow the law perfectly fine, but they are able to get exactly what I just said.
Yeah, but why
I-
shouldn't they
over
be
and over again.
rewarded?
Let me
Hold on,
read
why
these
would-
super chats.
Hey,
Let
I
me
am
read
in
these super
fav-
chats. Let me read these super chats, and then I'll let you respond. Okay. $5 from Cameraman 502. The problem with the anti-First Amendment crowd is that they can't address the issues in a content-neutral manner. Seem only people in Maryland, MD, or can petition the government. And $2 from 2024 A Gay Odyssey to say nobody lobbies for January 6ers, Patriots abandoned. Thank you for the money, gang. Now, Tyler, you may respond. Go
True.
ahead.
I'm still trying to respond to your first question. I'm a little stoned. I forgot the second answer I was going to give. But,
Yes.
but your first question was about APEC, and I'm pretty sure it's kind of the same thing. Like, APEC represents the United States views on Israel. Like we see a lot of the polling in terms of the whole Gaza thing that's going on right now. How many Americans actually stand with Israel over Palestine and support going into Rafah to finish the job? I think it was like 72%. So the fact that AIPAC has this much influence is because a lot of times their views align with the views of the voters, and if they
Wait,
didn't, then I think you get
would
some
the
pushback.
voters' views align with it if they didn't have the money they did to push forth ads, campaigns, and etc. to sway and influence the American voters' opinion?
I'd like to think so. I'd like to think that the reason we support Israel is because it's a Western democracy in a very bad area of the world that we helped instantiate. That if the left wing ever took a victory lap and didn't just move on to the next subject and be anti status quo, the left wing's policies resulted in the state of Israel, and they should be putting their arms up in the air and cheering that they took the most oppressed group of human beings in human existence and made them one of the most prosperous in the human existence in like 4 decades or 5 decades. So like
Let's address
Regardless,
the
ads are
point at
freedom of
hand.
speech, Wick, right? You have to agree.
It
yeah,
is
that's just
exactly.
hold,
I wanna-
But we're
I've
talking
been waiting for
about.
like a half hour. I got like 3 things
I
I just want to
understand,
address.
but stick to the point that we're talking about now.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
the
I'm
point
just
I
that was your
made was
question was
about
about
the
APEC.
the
I
pseudo
wanna answer-
bribery.
I want to
The
answer
pseudo
that.
bribery.
Okay, pseudo
let's-
bribery as well. Yeah, if that's bribery, man, I agree with like Florida recently passed what's called a cooling off period. It takes 6 years once you leave Florida politics in order to go into the private sector to do lobbying. But at the same time, I don't want to restrict these people from being lobbyists because who is best to be lobbyists but somebody that was formerly in Congress making the laws? They know every level of the system. They're the
Should
perfect
China
person.
be able to do this? Should China be able to come
Or an adversary? No, it's a national
to-
security issue.
to so you were against some lobbying?
How about
Yeah,
any foreign
yeah.
power? How about any foreign power?
I think our allies. I don't like you don't want adversaries, but our allies. I think that's fine.
I don't think
I like
Denmark's a
this
problem.
match.
I think if they want to buy some ads, it's fine.
Yeah, I like that. our
If
allies-
Ukraine wants to pay for pro-Ukraine ads, I don't have an issue. I do
Yeah,
have
but
an
hold on,
issue
yeah,
with
I mean,
actual
you-
enemies
you-
of the state.
They probably do pay for
I
pro-Ukraine
mean,
ads.
even if China did pay for it, this is kind of maybe why I changed the flip. Like, even if China did want to pay for it, I mean, it's still freedom of speech. You know, we let white supremacists say what they want. We let black nationalists say what we want. If we want to let China say what they want, then let them say what
But
they
the
want.
Chinese aren't
No,
citizens,
no.
though, aren't they?
Yeah,
I
these,
mean,
none of these countries, none
listen,
of the
if they're-
people,
if
from
they're paying
ally,
Americans-
ally or enemy, none of them
if
are
they're
representing
paying
the
American
interests of the
citizens,
American
citizens
people.
want to do it. let
That's
them
not
do it.
necessarily true. Like
Yeah.
there are plenty of allies that campaign for shit that represents the interests of the American people. Like even
They're not,
like,
but
Ukraine
they're not,
running
they're,
an
but they're
ad.
not doing it for the American people. They're doing it for their own
It
interests.
doesn't. It doesn't matter. There's dual
We cannot
interests.
rely on, no, we cannot rely on a foreign
Yes.
entity to campaign for the American people. That is
Okay,
absolutely
this is a
insane.
slippery slope.
Here's the problem with
Xenophobic
this. Here's the problem with
to me.
this. You can we are at an impasse right now where we have multiple Republican legislators constantly derailing important foreign policy bills. We
Hold
need
on, yeah,
every
like-
amount of energy
Yeah,
we can
hold
get.
The Russian
We need
lobby
every-
has promised them all sorts of things, I'm sure.
Yeah, I
Probably
mean,
shit
if
that's
you-
illegal if we actually looked into it. I doubt it's legal.
Wait, hold on. Are we
I'm
trying?
willing to bet a lot of that shit is
Russia Gate
illegal.
2.0.
Wait, hold on. So what are we saying? You're saying that the Republicans are the dashing on the rocks the idea of these foreign policy ideas. Is it that, or is it the Democrats are offering up dog shit policy offers and the Republicans are shooting them down? Like they tied
Bro.
that terrible ass fucking border bill
Bro,
to the
oh
Ukraine
my
bill,
God.
and I'm
I
still
knew
over
this-
it.
We're getting off track.
Yo,
We're getting
still,
off track.
I knew this was gonna go the moment he just
Where-
inhaled that oxygen. I knew it was gonna go.
Now we're just getting off
You
track.
said
What is this?
Wick, aren't
foreign
super
policy
chats
was
lobbying,
invading the
actually?
border.
Guys,
We
stop. I know the chaos. Let me just ask you all directly, right, before we go down on that fucking rabbit hole. Do you support a Democratic bill that has been put forward to ban officials receiving payments from foreign entities? Do you support it or are you against it? Why or why not? Let's hear your thoughts. Should Russia, for example, or China be able to pay officials, American politicians, American officials, money to influence them? Why or why not?
No.
Yeah. No, not any
No.
foreign entity of any kind.
I'd say
Specifically to pay them, no.
I like that our allies. I'd say we make it a national security issue and only restrict our adversaries. I'd like that our allies have some say in our government, and we do for them as well. I'd say I'm not a fan of that as a blanket statement. No.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna say no, 100%, just for the simple fact that I don't. If I'm gonna say if I'm gonna be completely against lobbyists, essentially, I also have to be against foreign entities even if people say, "Oh, well, they're an ally of ours," I don't think it should matter, because then like there's definitely gonna be that conflict of interest in there, especially like if a bill tries to come forward and it's somebody that's actually contributing to your campaign and you're just going to vote against it because it might go against your personal interest towards them, then I feel like I feel like it's the same thing all over again. Like the tobacco industry or the gun industry and whatnot. You're not going to vote against a bill because it's because you're going to lose your support essentially.
I mean, like, look at it more like in the private sector where this is stuff like this is allowed, where we have Palestinian professors and Iranian-funded professors in a lot of prestigious colleges. They've been taking a lot of that Middle Eastern oil money for a while, and it's resulting in kind of what we see on campuses to a degree right now. It's not something that's actually spreading out into the mainstream. As I brought up the polling before, like 80% of the country that has an opinion on the matter backs Israel. Money doesn't have that big of an influence as you think. And the private sector lets the free market of ideas play out. People didn't.
So, as
listen.
someone who works in the private sector, my job, one of my job duties is to buy equipment. And like all these vendors across the country will offer, hey, we'll fly you to our facility, we'll take you out for dinner and such like that. So my company has very strict rules on, if you want to see something, my company pays to send me and not the vendors paying for my attention. And I think that's at the core of my issue with lobbying is we'd like to have trust in our representatives and such, right? And the potential for corruption, because they're just human like every one of us, right? And that temptation of a fundraising dinner that will help your campaign and help you succeed in what you want to do. I think that temptation is too strong for people to ignore.
I have a question
it's in the
for
medical
Tyler.
field. Oh, yeah. I also want to have I got a couple things I want to address with you. Let me just hit Stu really quickly. In the medical field, we have that all the time. Like all these new drugs that come out and whatnot, pharmaceutical companies will pay 40 doctors to go into an
how'd that
expensive
go with the
fancy
opioid
restaurant.
crisis? How'd that work out?
You could always find negatives, but look at all the fucking
you always find
trailblazing
negatives.
drugs. Like at the
Well,
same time,
hold on.
we have
If you
CRISPR
own
and
if you
Ozempic.
owned stock in any of those companies that were making those opioids, you made a lot of money. So it worked out pretty good for some
And there
people.
were
Like I don't understand.
yeah.
Like y'all are sitting here arguing corruption. Like I'm gonna even argue corruption's a good thing. Let me just sit here and do this for a second. Y'all sitting there arguing corruption is bad, right? What's more American than sitting here and being paid to endorse your own values? That is America. I hate to break it to you. Like what? How dare y'all sit here and tell me, oh, this guy shouldn't take a CEO seat on a board after he worked to get aerospace engineering regulations reduced at Boeing. That guy deserves a medal for his accomplishments. You know what I'm saying? It's outrageous.
Boeing?
Yeah,
You really want to
exactly.
use Boeing right
That's
now?
why I used it. Because
That's your one?
that's why the doors are flying off. That guy did
Fucking
his
lower
job.
those regulations.
That guy did his job, and he got the regulations. They give him a reward. That's what they deserve. Y'all are gonna sit here and tell me that's a bad thing?
But if
Y'all
you
should be
speak out against him, what happens?
Hey, listen.
All right,
That's
so
another thing money
listen,
can buy.
for those of you that don't know Gibbs, he only argues based on his stock portfolio, so he's got some
True.
Boeing stock. That's what
I
I
do.
got.
I do have some Boeing stock.
So
My God.
with that in
It's
mind,
hurt-
Tyler,
Boo this man! Boo this man!
Hey, listen,
Tyler.
I got some Raytheon too, so let's go. Like we got all sorts of stuff.
Tyler, if money is not as effective as we think it is, then why the fuck do they keep spending billions of dollars a year doing it, and why are they profiting?
I mean, again, you need a certain amount of money. You need to hit X. Absolutely. That's one of the things I wanted to bring up with you is you brought up, it's actually 94% of elections where the person that takes in more money wins the election. But if the person that's going to go out and get more votes goes out and gets more votes, why wouldn't they also raise more money, even if it was like all individual donations? The fact that they're the more popular candidate merits the fact that they're going to get more money. Somebody actually went through and broke down these elections differently. I have the citation. I linked it in the chat. I put up a Google Doc. It has the citation in it. He goes through and he actually starts breaking these down. A lot of times, incumbents outspend challengers 3-4 to 1. So a lot of times when you put a challenger and it's not a serious challenger, you see the incumbent spend the normal amount of money that they earned in the bully pulpit that they control up against a challenger that spends maybe a quarter as much. So a lot of times those statistics are skewed. They also separated out Republican and Democrats running for open seats, and they actually saw there that between the winners and losers, there was only like a $600,000 gap between the spending on the campaigns. It was fairly close when you actually get two open seats. And
Did the
winner
winner spend more though? That 600K.
Yes, the winner
Only
was
a
up
half
by
a million.
Only a $500,000 in elections where we spend, I think, what, $4 billion now. $500,000 isn't that much money.
Yeah, that's
in
the
context.
presidential election. We don't spend that in,
Well, the average senator is like
races.
2.7 million is the average Senate in 2022.
Right, so
So 600,000 is a big.
25% of
That's
that.
20%, 25%. It's not that big of a gap, though.
Whoa, hold
I
on.
mean, it is.
Whoa, hold on. If I offered you to give you 25% more money than you have in your bank account now, you'd probably take that, right?
Absolutely, it's
And
more
do what he
money.
told
I'm not
you to.
denying that. It's just not that big of a gap. 20% gap in the money is
Except
like,
the
we're not
money-
talking about like a drastic amount. The reason I'm trying to separate.
25% increase. No, you're framing this horribly. A 25% spending 25% more than your opponent in an election is a massive deal.
Yes, I understand that, but again, the person that's going to garner more votes is going to garner more donations. Like, just by logic, if they're going to get more votes, they're going to have
But
bigger
that's
fan
not
base.
what
They're
I'm.
going to have more
That's not what I'm
donations.
pointing out here. I'm pointing out here is when you said that 25% more increase just isn't a big.
20%. It's not that big of a gap.
It's significant, but at the end of the day, you require money nowadays to win an election. And at the end of the day, I'd say that lobbying is a financial manifestation of what the individual wants. You can't really expect the average person to spend that much money or to be that invested. You're going to have large organizations, you're going to have companies that are going to step in and spend money to make sure that a candidate is properly equipped enough to do a strong enough campaign to win an election. I don't think it's realistic to expect everybody, to expect the average person to just spend that money and make that time and make that effort. That's just not realistic. There has to be some sort of way that these politicians can receive the funding and support that they need, and companies are that's just a manifestation of the freedom of speech, I would say. So
we live in a digital age right now. What is stopping any politician from just getting their own computer, getting their own setup, and just running their own advertisements and whatnot? Like, they can think smart.
You gotta if you're running for president,
that also takes money, though.
Yeah, that takes money.
Right, you got to buy the computer, you got to pay for electricity, you got to put out the advertisements. Like,
you got to pay video editors, you got to pay people to record you, you got to pay a lot of people to get stuff happening.
You're just doing what a super PAC does right now, just yourself, right?
Yeah, you're just doing it essentially by yourself. But the reason why, like, I'm asking this question is because, like, there's not been too many politicians out there that have ever actually like raised a certain amount of money or were outspent by their opponents and actually won an election. The only one that really comes to mind is Jesse Ventura. He won his election and he only raised $300,000 in his election when he won for the governorship of Minnesota. He didn't have any corporate money. He didn't have any PAC money, any lobbyist money. I mean, you could also say it's probably because of his name, essentially, but it's also because people watch the debates. I mean, that's.
But there's a correlation with the amount of support you have from the people, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you can be a random nobody. But if you get a whole bunch of money thrown at you and no one knows who you are, nobody knows really what you represent, and you're running against someone who's established, who's well-known, whose positions are well-known, who's well-supported, you can have as much money put behind you as you want. I don't really see that overcoming the will of the people. I mean, you look at a guy like Vivek Ramaswamy. I mean, that guy had a significant war chest, and he was somewhat likable, and even he still got dusted.
Well,
I mean, this is a guy... I mean, still, the people, generally speaking, wanted names that they were more familiar with and more comfortable with. And we can get into some of the other reasons for why. But at the end of the day, you can have a good enough war chest. You can have a good enough amount of money behind you. But popularity, how liked you are, and how much people actually want you to win is an extremely important part of it. But the funding is what gives you the ability to go further.
Do you think that the funding would influence perhaps how many people know you, how many people are aware of your message, and how many people actually are willing to hear you out? Do you think that the money that you were able to accrue in the campaign would have any effect on that at all?
Yeah,
it does, but it's. I would agree. You're right about that. It does matter, but there is a point there gets to a point where once you step in there with your opponent, you're either the person who's going to win or you're not. And money kind of helps you get to that point where you get to step in and compete with everybody else there. But once you're there with all the other well-funded and well-known candidates, now it's a matter of deciding, okay, like, who do the voters actually want to win? Who do they prefer? Who do they actually want to see being their representative? I would say money gets you in the door.
Yeah, I don't think anyone here, or at least that I'm aware of, no one here is claiming that money is the sole deciding factor. Obviously, it's not. However, what I think is being argued by the anti-lobby side is that it's creating this undue influence where politicians aren't listening to the common person; they're listening to the people with the paycheck.
Can we point out
Accurate.
some significant legislation, not even significant, any sort of legislation that the people probably would want passed, but got derailed by
Universal health care,
lobbying?
that's an easy one, right?
Yeah.
Insurance lobbies,
Student loan forgiveness.
yeah.
And how much of that is just Republicans knowing that their base doesn't fucking want them to pass that?
Why don't they
Amen.
want him to
I
pass it
mean,
though?
Amen.
Why don't they want to pass it
Well,
though?
hold on.
Because
No,
that's a
even
long
in red
belief.
states,
What?
even in
Yeah.
red states, if you post that as an individual issue separate from the D or the R, it generally is
What was the issue?
favorable. People generally want
So,
to adapt.
so do you think? Do you?
Insurance lobbies, again, even with the Affordable Care Act, the insurance lobbies had undue influence on the process and carved out exceptions so they wouldn't lose their
So
back.
Well, hold
are
on,
you
hold on. That's not
arguing?
fair.
Overwhelmingly negative for the common person.
No, but hold
So
on,
you're
that's not fair. That's not fair because we look at examples of like worldwide where they have universal health care, right? And y'all want to talk about the Affordable Care Act, which is just one step towards universal health care, right? And I look at a country like the UK. I don't know if many of y'all know this. I know Wick knows this guy. Modi 201, 2 days ago, he had some kind of incident, had to go to the hospital. It took the ambulance 8-9 hours to get there for him, right? So this is okay. That we know that's a problem in the UK. We know this is an issue with universal health care. And when you sit here and you look at people like me, I go, oh, well, this is a problem in countries that have universal health care. I don't want that. Affordable Health Care Act is on the path to that. Why would I want that? It's exactly like Rashad said. It's not that it's, oh, everybody wants this. It's that there's a large segment of the population going, nah, fuck that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's absolutely correct.
Well, it's really complex. Healthcare is a very, very complex issue. There's a lot that people don't understand, like how complex healthcare actually is. That's why, because you see, if a person's uninsured and they still got to go to the hospital, they still got to pay for the ambulance ride, and then they find out they got kidney dialysis, they're going to spend time in the hospital. They can't afford to pay for it. Why? Because they don't have any health insurance. Because I mean, that's why. Like, I'm not going to get into an argument about like healthcare essentially right now. But here's the reason why we bring this up. When people say, "Oh, well, student loan debt forgiveness is bad," but for some reason, the Republicans are all in favor of tax cuts for the super wealthy. That seems to be perfectly fine. When we get saddled with that debt, that actually increases the deficit and the national debt to a higher level. I mean, where's the consistency?
Let me answer Wick's question real quick, because I can jump in here and help you out a little bit, Wick. With the polling on, you were talking universal health care. You're talking 55% on aggregate. There are a Kaiser poll that said 70% one time, but generally you see universal health care is about 55% approval in the United States to about 45% say no. Once you start digging into that, it's a blanket term for several different policies, the most popular of which being single payer buy-in option that Hillary Clinton ran on. I think it's like 35% of people that are in favor approve that. Only about 19% of those people that are in favor approve a Bernie Sanders style complete public takeover of healthcare, of private health.
But here's the thing, and this is the point, right? We as citizens can have a discussion and should have a discussion about that. But the insurance lobbies are in there, and this is just one example of this process. The insurance lobbies have undue influence that's over, their voice is much louder than their size. And this is creating negative outcomes for the American people. Who here likes insurance companies? Raise your hand.
Insurance companies are all right.
No, insurance
Depends.
companies are a fucking scam.
No, they're
Okay,
great.
straight up.
I love
You're
'em.
betting that a bad
Get-
thing will happen to you.
Get a better
That's
insurance
what an
company.
insurance
I mean,
company.
hold on, that's not totally true. Like,
Like mine are pretty good.
yeah, I have great insurance. Maybe like just get better insurance.
Hold
My
on, hold
fucking
on, hold
water
on,
tank
hold
exploded.
on, hold
I'm paying
on,
$3,000 to get the entire
hold
house
on,
fixed.
hold
Yeah,
on.
I got all sorts of
Degenerates, stop
examples.
talking. Hold on. So apparently, I researched how many Republicans are against this, and apparently about 30% are against universal health care. So I'm not arguing that the lobbying doesn't matter. But when you're risking your entire political fucking career on being the one fucking fool in there, well, not fool, but the one guy in there saying, well, actually, we got to acknowledge the fact that these voters do have some of these people at political gunpoint. It's not just the money. It's also the fact that if they sit there and support this shit, they're not going to have a career.
Just the money.
It's not
No,
just the money,
it's
but
just
like,
not
the
the money.
voters
Literally
being,
nobody is
the
saying
voters
it's
being
just
able
the
to
money.
erase the voters being able to erase you ever even getting money ever again. That's actually pretty fucking significant. The voters being able to say, you know what, you being a politician is something we don't really like anymore. Bye and don't come back.
That
You're
doesn't
fucked.
matter
Yeah,
because what they can do, and I'll let you go after this, Parallax, whether you win or lose the election doesn't matter because you've already got their legislation passed and they promised you a cushy job consulting with them on their firm after you're done. Even when the voters vote them out, they don't care. It doesn't punish them. They're like, whatever, I got mine, right? This is the problem here.
But you're
And you all
arguing that it's
acknowledge
having a
that
significant
that's
effect.
shady, but
You're
that
arguing that
happens.
it's having a significant effect on the outcome of legislation. And if we're arguing about Medicare,
It is.
we have to take into account that these people are not voting for it. They're not pushing it in Congress precisely because their constituents do not want to see that shit go through. If the money could fix that,
wait,
I'm willing to
didn't you
bet it
just-
would.
Where did you just come up with that? Where did you come up with their constituents don't want to see it through? If you came up with 30% are against it,
A
how did you come
significant.
up with? How did you come up with that? Their
Pew
constituents?
Research.
Because, hold on.
Pew
because
Research
you
shows
recognize that their constituency is going to contain Democrats as well, right? So
the people that
while the
voted for
people-
them, the people that voted for them.
Okay,
Yeah, it's the
they are
vote.
elected to. They are elected to represent all of their constituency, and
Oh
according.
my
and-
god.
Are they
and
though?
yes, and
No, they're not.
according to your own logic, they are supposed to represent their constituency first. In fact, you mentioned earlier that McConnell wins because his constituents like him. So if the majority of Americans support universal health care, then it would be representing your constituency to support such a bill. You've contradicted yourself here.
That's not true.
No.
At all. Why would you? Why
Oh my
would?
god.
why
Okay,
would
hold
you
on.
represent people that wanna vote against you?
Hold on. This literally like that's the most ridiculous argument I've ever heard when we literally have an issue of areas in which like areas are siphoned off just so Republicans can fucking win. The idea that somehow or another, well, the majority doesn't necessarily agree with you, so that's not an argument. You have to
Hold on,
take
is
into
that a
account
good thing?
that the
Do you
people.
think that's a good thing that happens, Rashad? That they are.
I'm not
siloed off
arguing
the
it's a good
majority?
thing, but as I was
Okay,
saying before,
so
the
if
boss
it's a bad
interrupted me.
thing, if it's a bad thing, a negative thing, we can acknowledge it happens. Obviously, it happens, right? We can acknowledge that it would be a better thing if they did represent all the.
Can we acknowledge that
Yes.
Republican voters do have desires and wants that they want acted out in Congress? And can we acknowledge that that these politicians cannot just support certain things? And if the money was enough to change that, it fucking would. It would. I'm willing to bet there's all sorts of money out there to change these guys' opinions on universal fucking healthcare. The problem is these people are in office. These people are in office because someone's voting them in. And we have to take into account what those someones believe. And if they piss off those someones, they might not ever be able to get elected ever again.
Well, have you ever taken
I'm not arguing.
Well, go ahead. You finish up.
I'm
sorry,
not arguing that these other people in the areas that are Democrat don't exist, but I would imagine those Democrats probably didn't vote for these Republican candidates who wouldn't allow these universal health care bills to go through.
Sanity check. Can we just do a sanity check right here? Okay, a sanity check, because you've said a few things that I are wild to me. Rashad, do you not think that money, right? Money donors, money interest, money corporations, lobbyists have had any influence on politics in the last 30 years?
No one's I'm not arguing.
Okay,
that.
so
no
you think you acknowledge that they have influence. You keep saying things like, "Well, if they had all this influence, right, then it would change these bills, and it doesn't look like they're changing." How do you know? We acknowledge that money influences politics. So how do you know that it's not?
I'm not saying it's not influencing, but what I'm saying is it was so influential enough to override the will of the people in such a way that people are like, oh my God, what we want is being overrided. If we're arguing that, I would have to disagree because we have to acknowledge there's a significant amount of Republican voters who are voting for Republican politicians who are in office whose votes count for legislation. And these Republicans, at the end of the day, many of whom want to have long-term careers in office and don't just want to fuck off to some lobbying job. These people have to take into account, not only you have to take into account that these politicians believe in certain things. We also have to take into account that even if they don't believe in it, their constituency will bully them. And by constituency, I mean the people who were voting for them. What did Johnson do? He just fucking let the Ukraine shit go through? He had to be browbeaten into that. And there's still conspiracy theories out there that they briefed him on some fucking like doomsday plan by Russia to make him pass it through. This guy, I'm confident, not only did not want that shit to go through, but he understood my career is banking on this not going through. And there's a lot of other politicians in Washington that understand my career is banking on me not doing this shit. Even if someone were to say, hey man, we'll fund your campaign if you tank your fucking career.
But there's a lot of bills, there's a lot of legislation, let's skip to the chase here, that Americans don't have very strong feelings on unless they are educated in the issue. And most aren't, strictly speaking. And so there's a lot of things and a lot of legislation that these senators, congressmen can and do get passed that won't take their careers either way. Whether it gets passed or not doesn't matter to the average voter, but it does matter very much to these corporations and these things. And the effects of this legislation, even when everyone bipartisanly thinks this is great, look at the 90s crime bill, right? Like everyone bipartisanly was like, oh, this is pretty good, let's get this passed, can have unintended consequences that are very, very bad. And so my concern here, and I'll pass it to Alex, Parallax, and them, and they can talk, right? My concern here is that when we don't have strict regulations on these things, and when we let these things slip through the cracks, which we've all here acknowledged happens with people being able to be put on boards after they retire, right? The influences there is creating this risk that I'm not okay with. And when foreign entities, such as China, such as Russia, right, are able to pour money in to our lobbying system, I think that's wrong and dangerous. That's my statement. Let's go to Alex, and then we'll open it up.
So here's the thing we need to take into consideration as well. When you've got people that vote against, like say, for example, since we're talking about healthcare briefly, we're talking about the Affordable Care Act. Republicans voted against it because they use the dangerous buzzwords that people like that are completely uneducated in the healthcare system. They use terms like socialism and communism, even though people don't even understand. Okay, let me finish, okay? When people don't even understand what socialism and communism actually means, they just hear those buzzwords and they automatically start freaking the hell out, essentially. However, the Affordable Care Act has actually saved tens of millions of lives. It's saved more lives than it's actually put more at risk, essentially. This is based upon fact. The next part, the people that these Republicans that are voting against it, they've got health care for the rest of their life once they leave office. So even if they vote against it, it's bullshit. They don't care. Okay.
Sorry, Alex.
Yeah.
So you said tens of millions of lives. How many people die a year in America? Because tens of millions seems like a ridiculous number just based on the number.
It's not necessarily
2010 or whatever.
Tens that be it.
You
So
muted.
like,
Yeah, how many more people do you think got health care when the Affordable Health Care Act got
it was like after oh, hold on a second. I have to look up the stats.
It went from like 88% to 91% insured.
That's still a huge number, isn't it?
That's like
it is, yeah,
million.
but
it
was like 30 million people.
Yeah, but that's tens of millions of people essentially. So it's saved more people than
They
it's
were
actually
all
put
going
more.
to die.
Yeah, you have to assume that they're also like, we're gonna die, right? Unless they have this.
Well, for some people they would because they
just
have
real
like
quick, it's not just death that we're concerned of; it's also quality of life, right?
He said tens of millions are going to die.
There are people
less quality of life.
well,
They're less able to work, right?
Yep.
They're less able to support their families. There's just less quality of life. I think that matters too.
If I could though, like here's the thing: there are people that actually had pre-existing conditions that, without the Affordable Care Act, they probably would have died. Now, you could say it's anecdotal, but there are probably people, thousands, if not millions of people out there that actually suffer from this essentially. But and going back to my point though, is like the people that voted against this, they're already covered. They've got health care for the rest of their life. They are good to go. So they don't give a shit about their constituents. They're just going to sell you the buzzword saying, oh my God, this is socialism. And this is the next step towards they're going to start using other buzzwords. They're scare their constituents essentially to not want to go into affordable health care. But the thing is, all these Republicans that voted against it, they have not produced any healthcare bill since then. No Republicans have pushed forth a healthcare bill that actually works because there is no such bill that actually works essentially. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Again, this isn't a healthcare.
I know. I'm sorry, but I had to cover that though.
If I may, Rashad, a lot of your language seems to, and I understand the pragmatic angle you're taking, but a lot of your language seems to imply that you think that a politician's primary job is to get reelected. And I know some of them treat it that way, but that's not, in fact, the job. The job is to, in fact, represent your constituents. So I don't know why you keep bringing up the idea of reelection when we passed bills that people, frankly, don't like all the time. And about 2 weeks later, most people forget about the vast majority of them. And it's very rare that we have a landmark bill like Obamacare that we're still talking about a decade later. People have very short-term memories when it comes to like your typical pork barrel legislation, things like that. So I don't know why you keep appealing to the idea that these guys would somehow not be reelected, especially when even your stats showed that the majority do support universal health care. So I think that you are pointing to something fallacious. It's their job isn't to get reelected. Their job is to represent their constituency. And as has been pointed out by both me and you, their constituency wants healthcare.
People get ousted from office. I actually have some points written down for that. People get ousted from office all the time for not doing what the constituents want. And a lot of the times they're the incumbents and they have way more funding. I actually I have it listed under anecdotes and other, but we see in, I think, 4 cities now, the George Soros funded bail reform DA that's like letting criminals out on the same day they get arrested and things like that. 4 of them have been removed from office now. They're greatly outfunding their opposition. Somebody from the GOP, a Republican, just won the DA seat in Portland, Oregon, like this week. So like in Portland, Oregon, if the GOP is winning, like maybe the voters have a little more say over the money and the institution that takes place there.
To address what you were saying, I'm looking back at this again, and 37% of Americans do not support it, but 66% of Republicans don't. I think we also need to take into account, Christ, you also take into account that when these politicians are in office, they're not just representing the people that live in the place that they're representing. We're living in a time, especially now, where Republican candidates increasingly couldn't give 2 single fucks about what the Democrats in where they live think. They're there to represent Republican voters and Republican voters only. And we have to acknowledge there is a significant amount of Republican voters who, for whether it's informed or uninformed reasons, do not support universal health care. So when we have politicians who are more concerned about what their voters believe, I mean, I keep bringing this up, but Marjorie Taylor Greene yelling about, real Americans and Republicans and true patriots don't care about blah, blah, blah. You think she gives a fuck about what Democrat voters in Rome, Georgia think?
Well, she's dumb as fuck. She's dumb as a box of hammers.
She's dumb. But what we're seeing is an increase of more and more politicians in that realm going toward that ideology, even if they aren't as outspoken and as minstrel-like as Marjorie.
By the way, before you say she's dumb as fuck, she is the reason that Ukraine bill got passed. It's not because there's a conspiracy.
Was that just a sexism?
She obstructed it like a million times.
I'm going to tell you why. It's because Mike
Johnson, she was on her period?
Mike Johnson hated her so much that he passed the Ukraine bill out of spite. That's why.
He said
here's the thing.
Menstrual. You just called her menstrual.
No, minstrel show.
Minstrel.
Cycle.
Okay.
Okay, I was like, what is going on?
It's a double entendre. Double entendre.
Don't try to get me caught up. What the?
Minstrel. Hey.
No,
If you're only going to pass
legislation, honestly, Lactoid, I think you should not be accusing a black man of saying minstrel shows. That's on you.
I thought he said menstrual, like she was being on her period when she's out there like being
cycle. They even crazier.
I'm clipping.
I see what's happening here.
Gang. Okay, so you're in trouble now, Rashawn.
Oh my god.
Let me hold on. Let me wind this back just a smidge.
Got it.
Right. Like the reason that there are a lot of politicians, especially on the Republican side, that are unwilling to go out against Trump, right? Who are more and more like, look at Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley is a great example. You saw her rail against Trump during the primaries, talk all sorts of shit about him. Recently, she just endorsed him, right? Even after all these, calling him a traitor, coward, all these things, right? And then just endorses him. She does this, right? Ted Cruz did the same thing. They do this because they know If they do not, that there are powerful interest groups. Not only will it piss off the MAGA voters, but there are powerful interest groups who will funnel money into their opponents, right? Powerful, moneyed interests that back what Trump believes, right? And this is going to have huge, even Trump himself, right? One of the reasons he pushes for a lot of legislation isn't because he actually believes in any of this. Let's be real here. He's doing it because he has moneyed interests that are backing him, saying, hey, we can get you in power if you do this or X, Y, and Z. He's an opportunist, straight up, plain and simple. Do you disagree?
This is a bad example because the Republican establishment would have supported Nikki Haley and did support Nikki Haley over Trump, right? Trump's power comes from his overwhelming popularity of the base that are loyal to him like a cult leader, right? They love him. And despite the fact that a lot of the establishment Republicans are very skeptical of him, right? Because he's more populist instead of like pro-business oriented historically. So this is actually a bad example. This is like the Republican Party bucking like the paid for interests. And
no, you say that, but yes, the party, yes, but the paid interests such as like the Heritage Foundation, there's a few others, right? I don't have the list.
What about
right?
the
Isn't it like Tucker Carlson though?
Well, they support. They would support any. The Heritage Foundation would support any Republican candidate.
But that's not, so he's also
Trump was
not
the
correct.
leader of the party. He's the leader of the
hold
party. The party's going to be behind him.
Yeah,
Hold
of
on,
course.
Rick is actually not correct about this because if you look at other establishment Republicans, like the Koch brothers, they put a lot of money into not
brothers,
Trump.
yeah.
You like that? The Koch brothers, yeah, they've been over and put a lot of money into the not Trump, and they're and like they've been one of the primary backers. Like they've been basically the Soros of the Republican Party for decades, and they're over here putting money into everybody. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised to find out they put money into Biden at this point. Them fucking bastards.
In 2016, exactly what he's saying. In 2016, Scott Walker was outspending Trump. Jeb Bush was outspending Trump. Hillary outspent Trump in the general election.
Cool.
3-1.
It ain't 2016 no more.
3-1.
I'm just saying that money was there against Trump when he ran, and he somehow beat the odds. So I don't think that money
doesn't
is.
prove the rule, right?
Right. But what we're talking about is
I said
right
it's a bad
now,
example
and
because
right now, well, not necessarily Lactoid, because right now Trump represents where the money is. So Trump's best fundraising day came one day after Nikki Haley's, and he got 9 times more money than she did. He out fundraised her and had more funds than her by a significant amount.
he also had he probably had more than 9 times the support. Like what's the actual like population compared to money? Nikki Haley was represented like by corporate interests by far, right? Compared to Trump. It's just the truth. And in 2016, he was outspent.
Follow the money. That's all we've been saying, right?
Okay, you can say this about a lot of candidates, but I'm just saying like this is the worst example you can think of because here you have a candidate that like, despite the fact that the establishment was against him.
I just disagree with you. Like, can you substantiate that? You made a claim that Nikki Haley had more corporate interests backing her than Trump did.
Yeah, she definitely did, bro. She's like neocon.
Right,
I
you
don't know
keep
how you
saying that.
argue
I want you to substantiate it. I don't
Okay.
believe you.
While he's looking at that, though, my point stands. I'm just saying that, like, Trump broke through that mold. That mold was there against Trump.
Again, it isn't it's not going to 100% give you success.
Oh yeah, I got you.
Trump is
I
a
got
great
it.
example.
And the exception doesn't prove the rule as well.
She's got all sorts of. Here, I'm just gonna post a link in here.
Sure, I'm sure she also has corporate backers. That's not my claim, but Lactoid said that the corporate interests, by and large, backed Haley over Trump, and I just contest it. I would like to see that substantiated.
I would say that Haley was disproportionately supported by corporate interests and money as opposed to population, as opposite of Trump. Apparently, I'll go through every single month, but in January, Haley's campaign raised more money than Trump's campaign.
Okay.
Now that's just January, but I'll go through 12 million.
Get paid lawyers.
Sure. But look,
20. She raised in January. January alone between her campaign and a super PAC supporting her, $24 million, which was more than Trump. Only 8.8. 8.8 plus 7.3.
Why do you think that is? This isn't going to be a long conversation. Why do you think that is?
Why
Here you
did
go. Here's
Nikki
one
Haley
with a
raise
breakdown
more
of all-
money?
Hold on, Gibbs. Pipe down. Yeah. Why did Haley raise more money in January specifically?
Oh, I don't know. Is there something specific about January?
Yeah, it would be because that's before it fucking mattered to Trump to actually raise money and be a part of the polls because it hadn't been whittled down to just he and Haley.
Why did that change the fact that like you think Trump's saying no to money that's being handed to him? You think
No,
that like
he's not. He didn't have to say no to it. He wasn't actively fundraising. He wasn't actively campaigning. There was a Republican primary essentially running without his involvement. He didn't need to be involved. He was the party representative, and everyone knew he would get the nomination. So he didn't have to begin fundraising until Nikki Haley started encroaching on his numbers to a degree that he needed to fundraise.
No, he's using it for the legal trials.
Yeah, it's
Alright, so I
actually the
just-
legal. It's
I
actually
just-
the legal trial in Georgia that
I
caused
just
him to get
posted a
9
link
times the
though
funding
in
to
there,
spend
and
one
it
day.
has Biden and Trump and Haley listed for what their corporate donors are, and it has Haley slightly ahead on corporate donors. So to back what like, if y'all want to go through it, I'm not going to break it down, but she's slightly ahead.
and that's with her being how much down in like popular support, right? You have to put it in perspective. If you have like a massive popular support, you would expect to have like some more corporate donors as well, but that's not even the case here apparently, with what Gibbs is saying.
Yeah,
It's proportionally represented.
Was that some joke that I
Link it
totally
to me.
went over my
No,
head?
per capita. Yeah, it's a per capita thing on
Here.
Twitter.
Did you put it in the here? The 20. I'll look it up again. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe I'll eat the L on this one. But this is one of those common it's just common sense that Trump is the man of the people and doesn't have these corporate backers that his opponents do, which are part of corporate America. That's propaganda, right? That we understand that even if he had a huge amounts of corporate money coming in, every candidate says that they're the man of the people, the woman of the people, so to speak, that they rely on small money donations. But we all know that there are huge amounts of moneyed corporate interests that are backing their favorite horse in the race. Okay? And yes, we understand that they're not the sole deciding factor. But to restate my case here, is that there is a concern when they have what I would consider undue influence over legislation that is being proposed, that is being passed, and that is being amended. When is the last time any of you read a proposed bill, front to back, cover to cover?
I can
Yeah,
tell you
anti-Semitism
it
bill.
was the border bill. That was the last time I read one.
I read
When that
yeah,
dog shit border bill, all
And
650
HR2.
something pages. That shit was so. I'm sorry, I'm gonna get on soapbox.
I read that and
What's the answer?
HR2 for a debate I did.
Yeah, I did the anti-Semitism bill, and that was interesting. So,
What do you think
Go ahead.
Wick, what do you think about apparently here's NBC, this is from May of this year, so only a few days ago. Apparently Biden's raised 2.5 times more money than Trump has. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, again, corporate interests, right? And you could argue that Biden has more corporate interests that are backing him than Trump. Sure. Does that not concern you?
So whether it concerns me or not, I mean, I don't like it when people support a candidate that I don't like, but I don't want to. I mean, I don't want to see how you ban it, right? Because freedom of speech. So,
well, I'm not asking for a ban here, to be clear. What I'm asking for is stricter regulations, and one of the bills that I would advocate for is the one the Democrats proposed recently that would be ban on officials receiving foreign outside money. I think that is a common sense lobbying ban bill that we can all get behind to say, hey, if you're not an American company or an American corporation or an American citizen, you should not be able to funnel money into a candidate.
I struggle a little bit. Yeah, I struggle a little bit with that one, but I wanted to say the two things that I could maybe get behind is I'm skeptical whenever it's like freedom of speech oriented. So somebody's simply advocating for their interests or hiring spokespeople to advocate for their interests, right? Where I think that maybe I'd be okay with regulation is when the concern is the politician personally benefiting, like in some kind of like
why is that bad?
Well, I'll explain, right? So the two things that I would like to see is perhaps some kind of cool off period between going from government into lobbying. And then also a ban on people in government owning stocks. I don't think that you should be able to own a stock and then pass a bill that's directly in favor of that stock. I think it was
I
like,
like it.
Absolutely
there
not.
was like some Californian politician or whatever where like they only voted through a bill if Panera Bread was specifically exempt
Yeah, what
because of like
politician was that though?
I forget.
Gavin Newsom?
It may have
Yeah,
been
it was
Newsom.
Gavin
Yeah, I
Newsom.
think
It
it was
was
Newsom,
Newsom.
right? And because
It
like
was.
Panera Bread is like such an important like backer. I
That
think
being
like
said,
Hold on, but I actually don't have a problem with that because capitalism. I don't understand why you wouldn't like. Hold on, what's the whole
me
point of running for
too.
office? Is to like run for office and represent your constituents, of which are your family, you. If you're not going to sit here and make the
are
laws
you in
that
favor? Okay,
benefit
Gibbs,
you,
are you in favor of me? Like, let's say a cop pulls me over and I like throw him a 500, so I don't get a ticket. Is that okay? You think that's cool?
No, the laws are
Well,
already
but
set in place right
wait.
now to
Yeah,
stop.
no, what he's
illegal
gonna
things.
say.
Let's put this into a little bit more context.
Wow,
Okay,
Gibbs,
so,
come on. You don't.
Because
You can't
capitalism is
possibly
not
think
an
that.
Bro,
argument.
why
here's
would
the
y'all
thing.
even ask? Y'all know he's
Because
gonna say.
capitalism is
Well,
not an argument.
Now you can say F the police all you want, right? If you want to go out in the streets and do that. But like that's
Well-
different. That's different from like, well, we should make police accepting bribes for favorable activity
Well,
legal. That's kind of a different
here's-
story.
okay,
Politicians
hold on.
cannot
Wait,
own
one.
stock directly.
economically,
Yeah.
you take a net loss, it's a punishment, and you economically enrich
Hold
a
on.
hardworking
Wait.
citizen that works for the government. I don't know.
Let's get away from like the bribing of the cop, okay? Let's say, for example, you've got a freight company, BNSF, right? Let's say, for example, they want certain politicians, they put a little bit of money into politicians that can actually cut regulations where they don't have to update any of their safety equipment to make it to where they only need to have one engineer at one time. They basically gut a lot of safety regulations where you actually have to stay for longer periods of time, where actually you have like less time off essentially. And this actually could cause great safety cause a great detriment to safety. Are we saying that's a good thing because of capitalism, or do you think that's like a detriment to the workers that can actually inhibit? Because we have train derailments all the time, every year.
How did they do
And
that? Are they just paying for ads against it? Are they paying for like think tanks to like write against this, or are they giving the politician money directly?
Well, it's basically paying think tank to essentially like get this legislation written into law to kind of like make it like colored
Yeah.
up. Say this will actually increase our overall, and we'll be able to take care of our workers at a later date, which actually didn't happen because if everybody remembers the BNSF thing, like there was a struggle with the unions and BNSF, and they still didn't get like the time, the paid time off that they were asking for because they still get docked for any days they might take off. Essentially, like that's the point, is because they're trying to increase their overall like. When you're a major corporation, what's the most important thing for you? Making money, essentially, right?
I hear you, but again, but what we come to is like any kind of proposed regulation along these lines of not when we're talking about personal enrichment, but when we're talking about like we should stop organizations of people from pooling resources to advocate for certain positions. There is no way you do this in any conceivable way without throwing the First Amendment out the window. I can't figure it out, right? Like if a corporation tomorrow you ban super PACs, okay? Well, tomorrow Exxon is just going to start writing a book against like oil regulations or running their own ads. Okay, well they can't run ads anymore.
Let me in here.
Okay, well can
Hold on.
they make movies?
Let me
Can
in
they
here
like
real
what
quick,
can they
guys.
do at this point?
Hold on, because we're conflating two different things here. The political system that we currently have for donations directly to a candidate is very strict. You cannot ask for anything in return. You can't. There's all sorts of rules behind it. A lot of the money that we keep flipping back and forth is there are non-coordinated groups that take in money and support certain ideas or legislation or candidates. They're not allowed to actually directly involve themselves or speak to or coordinate with the candidates in any way. And you can say it still happens in seedy dark rooms, but that's illegal. We have mechanisms to police that. So we keep kind of bouncing back and forth. If we're going to take away all money in politics to this degree, how are the campaigns going to afford to hire people to go out and get the vote? Where does that funding mechanism come from?
campaigning.
So taxpayers.
Adapt it, overcome.
That's true. I want to answer your other question though, Wick, about the foreign influences like funding like Americans. See, like this is the issue I have with that. Say I am. This is something. All right, I'm going to go against my stocks. Right. So say I decided I was going to buy Chinese stock, and I was going to buy a stock in I don't know China Raytheon. I don't know what if there's an actual that, but whatever. And I bought a bunch of stock in it. And they were saying, "Hey Gibbs, we will pay you to lobby for us for these things," or "Hey Gibbs, do you know a politician that would take money for us for the lobbying, yada yada." Like, and I would absolutely think that's well within my right because it represents my interest because I'm making more money, and there's no reason like why I should be able to be restricted or forced as an American to have my freedom of speech taken from me because I want to sit here and make more
Well,
money, even if it is a foreign adversarial power.
Let me ask you this, Gibbs. Should China be able to buy up Google, Okay. And then
No.
restrict any mention of a candidate that doesn't support China.
Well,
So
if
they
hold on,
they
if a
shadow
private,
ban
if a
it. They what's the word? They make it so there's
well,
less
China
impressions,
shouldn't be able to
etc.
buy Google because I don't play fair when it comes to America first. But
They're using
on the
stolen
flip side,
funds as well. Taxes are stolen funds.
if Google wanted to shadow ban a candidate, then I wouldn't have a problem with it because they're a private company, or as long as they're a private company.
Interesting,
Well-
right? So if they shadow ban Trump, you'd be fine with it.
Yeah, it sucks for Trump. Maybe he should buy Google then.
Fair enough.
Skill issue.
But
Wait, isn't this what the
once
social
again,
media companies were doing? I mean,
Yeah, I mean exactly. And he was bitching about it. And what did
Do
he
you
do? He
think
had
that
his
was a
buddy
good?
Elon.
Do you think
he
that
had
was
his- hold on,
healthy
his
for our
buddy-
democracy?
Well, it worked, didn't it? Elon went and bought Twitter, and now we have a toxic wasteland where anybody can say anything, and which is what y'all
glorious.
wanted. Y'all wanted 4chan on Twitter, and now y'all got it, and people are still bitching about it. So, like, what do you want? You get what you want, you bitch. You don't get what you want, you still bitch. Like,
Well, there's
it
no
sounds like a skill
consistency there.
issue.
There's no
I'm
consistency.
I'm the only one being consistent here. I
No,
said,
no. I'm talking
Google.
about the Twitter thing.
Oh well, like I said, if Google wants
Other
to
than
shadow ban
Gibbs,
Trump, let him.
other
They-
than Gibbs, do you guys think that Google or another corporation should be able to sell themselves to a foreign entity, Russia, China, North Korea, whatever, Britain, right? If we want to use a friend, should they be able to sell their corporation, and then should that corporation, based on the influence of the government that they are now owned by, right, be able to shadow ban candidates that don't support that country? Do you think that's healthy for democracy?
No, that's real
No.
fucking bad.
No.
Well, look at what happened with TikTok, for example. I mean, for crying out loud, we lost our fucking shit over TikTok. Like, we found a way to basically, like, we gave them an ultimatum and said, oh, we've got foreign influences coming in here with TikTok right now. So now you have a certain amount of time before we actually buy your company or like distribute it out elsewhere. I think that's what the legislation essentially said. Like, I'm still not really sold that it's like China that's in charge of TikTok. I mean, that question was asked by the CEO, and he said, "No, I'm from Singapore."
I just find it I find it funny that there are levels of lobbying that each of you would be against, except for maybe Gibbs. Gibbs might be the outlier here, right? But everyone but Gibbs, right, on the pro lobbying side, would be like, okay, no, this is a little too far. We should probably put
I'm the only one that's not a socialist.
yeah, but are the lines like based on some kind of principle, right? Of like, do freedom of speech protections extend to foreign governments? Generally not, right? Do they extend to U.S. citizens? Yes, they do. And this idea of U.S. citizens coming together and advocating for a particular interest, of stopping that just because they happen to be organized in a particular way, like the First Amendment doesn't say no freedom of speech for corporations. Like it applies to America, like not China, but to America, including the people within America.
So Lactoid, is it okay for a corporation to have more freedom of speech over you? Like they can override you at any time? Like they can basically silence you at any point because they have more money?
We mean they can, right? People who are
you're okay with it?
Well, I'm not okay with it on like the personal level. I wish I had more influence, I suppose. But there's plenty of people who have more influence than me, right? There's streamers who are bigger than me who have a greater influence.
Sure.
Is it unfair that they have more followers so that they have a larger audience that they can speak their message to? Like, what's the difference between super chats and lobbying? Really? Like, there's not that much of a difference.
Amen.
Who wants to lobby me? Gang, if you're enjoying this content and you
Ooh,
want to
lobby
lobby
Wick.
I will
Hashtag
allow
lobby
it.
Wick.
Can I just ask more about this potential future where what do we decide? So you're saying government funded elections. Who decides what election is legitimate? Do we give Vermin King the same amount of money that we give Bernie Sanders to run in New York State? Or whatever, every state?
Well, it would be
Vermin
based on,
Supreme.
are you able to, like,
Vermin Supreme, bro.
Yeah, the
Vermin
Vermin Supreme. that's the
$2
thing.
from Song Institute, consider yourself lobbied. Thank you for the $2. But here's the thing,
I
right?
got
like,
you that.
Take all
there
your
would be
guns and give you better
mechanisms.
ones.
There would be mechanisms in place, right? If you can get so many signatures, for example, or so many people who vote for you in this primary, the top X candidates will receive funding. I think that's perfectly reasonable. No?
Or I just
So
leaving it up to the people is and still this doesn't take care of that dark money as well.
Jeptan, when is the open? I don't know when the open is. If you give me enough money, I will open it up. But otherwise, I'm just going to end at 8.
I was actually going to say that.
$2 from the Alex Kirsch Project. Say hashtag WickPack. Thank you.
Yeah,
So
I was
I don't
actually
know
gonna
when
say that, Wick. Like, let me ask you a question, Wick, if you don't mind. Like, all right, so you just said if you give me enough money, maybe I'll do an open. All right, like that's a fair 1-to-1 equivalent to what
And
lobbying
thank
is,
you for
right?
the 5 gift subs on Twitch. Average debate enjoyer. Carry
Right.
on.
Do that
Yes.
open.
So like say someone wanted to get on your show, hypothetically, right? It won't hurt their chances if they're a regular donator or sub to you. Is that true or not?
No, it won't hurt them at all.
All right, I rest my case.
But do you
Lobbying good.
lobbying
Gibbs, literally
happens,
Gibbs. Capitalism.
but is it good? I don't know if that's the case. And you don't. And to be clear, there's plenty of people who've come on my show who haven't given me a goddamn red cent. Rashad
Sure.
hasn't given me a goddamn red cent.
That's
God
Not a
did.
goddamn one. Not a goddamn one.
Boo.
Okay? Right? Lactoid.
Socialist.
Not
Wick,
1 cent.
your system,
But they are on all the time.
your system doesn't like even if you had the government give out money.
Said it
Like
doesn't hurt.
how are you going to stop a corporation from like putting out an attack ad against one candidate?
Oh, again, I'm not against all lobbying. I am just trying to acknowledge that there are moneyed interests that provide a large portion of influence into legislation, and I recognize that that is a negative thing. Now, you're right. The cure might very well be worse than the disease here, but that doesn't make the disease good. That doesn't make the disease positive.
Okay.
And that isn't something we should. And I'm all for naming and shaming, right? I'm also all for transparency. I think if you do make an attack ad, or if you do make a book or something, you should tell people who funded that book. You
Okay.
should be honest and open to who wrote that book and why. And that's why I tell everyone that I get a check from Progressive Victory, right? Every month, right?
Me too.
For attending a meeting, not for any of my what's it called, takes, but for consulting with them, right? 1,000 bits from Noritas. All streamers support lobbying. Stop the cap. I support lobbying for me.
No,
right?
Wick. So you do. So then you support the finding then of Citizens United, where
I'm
private organization.
I'm not anti-Citizens United. No.
Okay, well look at that. Everybody here is in favor of Citizens United. That's good. That's good.
But I'm not trying to pretend that there isn't some huge concerns that I have with the amount of money and lobbying in politics.
That brought back to my does that mean like those that are pro lobbying, are you okay with like somebody like getting legislation passed forward that would actually gut regulations, especially safety regulations that would actually have a drastic negative effect against workers? I mean,
there's different types
there
of
should not be
deregulations.
safety
What about
regulations.
somebody?
That's right.
What about somebody that wants to
there
lower
shouldn't be
gun
safety
regulations?
No.
You just asked a libertarian about regulations. You got your
yeah.
answer.
What if somebody? What if somebody wants to lower gun regulation? I mean, which regulation do you pick? Which regulation do you pick to ban? Like,
we already have
which
regulations on
deregulation
guns.
do you pick to ban? I mean,
We already have regulations on guns.
people don't want to increase regulation. So, how, like, what kind of deregulation is right or wrong, and how do we go about banning certain types if you're against deregulation?
Why shouldn't I be? Give me one good reason why I shouldn't own a Patriot missile launcher in my backyard.
Why?
Why not?
Why?
Why not?
Why?
Hold on, what?
Why
A
shouldn't I?
Patriot missile
America,
launcher?
that's
Gibbs,
why.
I could think of a few actually good reasons.
Yeah, if I want to have one in my backyard, why shouldn't I not have one?
The answer for why is evident. It can kill people.
But
so
the thing is,
safe
the
area, it's fine.
Patriot missile launcher is not. That's not its primary purpose, though. Like its main purpose is to take out aircraft, essentially, or like, yep. But
maybe
one Abrams tank.
What are you gonna do? Take out a drone or something like that? But here's my point. But here's the thing: like safety regulations are there for a reason. It's because it's there to protect the workers, essentially. Because if you don't have any workers there because you don't fucking take care of them, you're not gonna have any. Your business is gonna tank. That's why the regulations are in place.
Whoa! If your business is gonna tank. If your business is going to tank if you don't have them, we don't need the regulation. The businesses that don't do it, they'll just go out of business because they'll tank.
And there's always somebody willing to fill the slot of the guy that died. So I'm just saying,
really,
we can always hire somebody else.
Right.
Lactoid, calm down. This isn't that debate. I know what you thought, right? I know where your mind went, Mr. Lactoid. Oh, someone died. Now we're going to fill their slot?
Oh my God. Throwback. Jesus.
So again, most of the complaints that you guys have made, again, is about the dark money. And most of the solutions that have been proposed are about the actual campaign finance money that people collect. Like most of the strings attached, billions of dollars getting dumped in by rich people. Like for a candidate, you have an individual donation cap, and that's as much as you can give them, and it's done there. And then the dark money stuff picks up, and that's where you can spend unlimited amounts anonymously to do favors for the candidate that are uncoordinated. That's why we see 6 hours of Ted Cruz footage where he's like saying, I endorse this, I endorse that, the blah, 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 paid for by this person, that person. So all these companies can pick that footage up without actually coordinating with them and make their own ads. So, like, we're proposing fixes for light money when dark money's the problem. What are you going to do to solve dark money?
Well, so I think that we haven't touched on the dark money as I'd like to have throughout this. So one of the big things is that, and it's often misunderstood by opponents of lobbying in the American system, is that the gifts that these people are receiving in favor of entertaining the conversation, if you will, are supposed to be publicly disclosed. The problem is that not only are they not often not publicly disclosed, but when we do find out that there have been misappropriations or if people have not declared the things appropriately, we don't seem to want to do anything about it. So we've established through our inaction that they don't really actually have to follow these regulations. Clarence Thomas, once again, becomes a great example here. The man has, spent some time on some pretty fucking lavish yachts and on some pretty lavish vacations.
Good for him.
And they were undeclared. They were ghosts, or they were ghosts. They were undeclared. They were anonymous or gifts from different lobbying entities, different rich folks that influence him, and it was found that they should have been declared, and we're not going to do anything about it.
The
Nothing is
Supreme
going to
Court,
happen.
the
to
Supreme
them.
Court doesn't have to declare it. Actually, they're actually one of the few branches of government that doesn't have to declare any gifts that they were given. Like
Yeah,
some
that's a
do,
good.
but
That's
some don't.
but hold on a second.
Okay.
So these men that have dedicated their entire lives to civic service should have to declare the
Yes.
gifts that they get given
Yes.
in the line of duty for doing
Yes.
their civic. Outrageous.
Yes. Outrageous.
That's
Why?
disgusting. Why
Why?
should we be looking into the lives of these private patriots who have sat here and given their lives to sit there and die
Because
in
they
the
have
Supreme Court?
bias.
And
It's
nah,
like the
that's
cushiest
it
job
is
ever,
biased.
Gibbs. Come on. Come on.
nah, that's just great. Listen, it's a hard job. You have to sit here and
It's
every
really
decision.
not.
Listen,
There are no
literally,
checks and balances
hold
for the
on,
Supreme Court.
Lactoid.
That's why.
Literally in their job description, every decision they ever made is scrutinized for the rest of eternity. You don't want to be the guy on the wrong side of a decision and everybody kind
That
of
has
goes forever.
not stopped them from making terrible
Listen,
decisions, okay?
either way, exactly. Listen, they've stuck by their guns was a terrible decision. They deserve whatever they are giving as gifts. These are patriots that deserve the
No.
thanks
Oh,
of
Okay,
the
God,
this
American
is not
people.
my
he's
opinion on this
leaving.
one, okay? Just to be
Well, I
clear.
mean, it's the correct. I mean, it's the correct opinion. I'm saying the
Really?
rest of y'all are
It's not.
unpatriotic socialists.
Okay,
The
gang.
cucks.
We
We had that in there.
if we want a little bit of okay, here. I know you guys are I see you screaming for openings, open panels, etc. If we can get either 5 more subs in Twitch or $25 on YouTube, I will open it up and we'll go to at least 8:30. Some of you have to go. I know. I see you. Some of you got hard cutouts. But if we can get that by the time 8 o'clock rolls around, I will open it up. So it's on you, dear viewer, to lobby me for the result that you want to see. Again, 5 more on Twitch or 25 on YouTube. Okay, with that, let me get into a question for the anti-lobby side, if I will. So, to Parallax and to Kirsch and to Slong and Stu, if you're still here. Do you think that any degree of lobbying should be allowed? Where is your cutoff here? Where's the limiting principle? At what point do you say, well, this is good lobbying or this is bad lobbying? Or do you think it's just all should be thrown out? Go ahead.
I'll go ahead. I think I'm pretty straightforward with mine, so it should be easy to get out. I feel like most of the money, if not all of the money, should be removed from lobbying. So I don't, in fact, think that you should be able to be receiving gifts, financial or otherwise. I don't think you should be able to be sent on vacations or have your wife given a beautiful designer dress. I don't think those things should be involved in it. I think that lobbyists should be treated as a professional entity, it's a profession, and you go perform your profession, and you should not be able to offer that candidate anything in exchange for what you are doing, whether it be dark or otherwise. And there should absolutely be a cap on the amount of money that PACs and super PACs can provide, especially
What would the
with
cap?
the
Give me a
expanding.
give me a number just to work with, right? I understand. I'm not going to hold you to it like a.
I don't know, few million. I have no clue.
Um,
That's an answer that's above my head.
Fair enough.
The reality is that there are caps on the amounts that human beings, persons can give, and the right to free speech is bestowed upon persons. So if we are going to claim that these corporations are people, they too should have caps.
For every person working within them, right?
Let's go to Kirsch. Then I want to hear Slung and Stu's
All
answer
right.
to this. Go ahead.
Well, if I was actually, I would actually say, like, if I was to want to keep lobbyists, I would want it to be more balanced out, essentially. Because here's the thing: if you have like a labor union or lobby of some sort, for every dollar they spend, all the big business corporations spend $34 essentially for the same kind of contributions that they would give a candidate, essentially. So you'd want to like kind of balance it out. Like if a labor union spends $1, then that's it. That's about the same thing across the board. Because I feel like the undue influence within like corporations that are actually making more contributions, like that's my main concern right there. And like Parallax says, I don't think anybody should get any gifts or should not receive any wealthy donations, because I feel like that can really kind of sway your decision making essentially in the future. Now, there are some lobbies, there are some like PACs out there that have actually done good things. However, it's just because the issue was like the PAC is a great example, right? You had organizations like nonprofit organizations, other PACs, whatnot, coming together to basically make sure that this legislation got passed because it's so overwhelmingly popular, because everybody cares about the veterans, right? So this is something that's very, very insanely popular, and this is something that will benefit the American people. But then there's some legislation that doesn't benefit the Americans, but yes, just because they have so much influence, they have so much financial capability to fund this, essentially, that it gets written into law. That's where it could essentially be a problem, because there might be somebody that might anti-bill that is a different PAC, but they don't have as much funding, essentially. So it has to kind of be balanced out. They have the same message across the board, essentially. So that's my position.
Okay. Last Slung and Stu, and then we're gonna get to then we're gonna allow responses, and we're gonna kind of wrap it up into the closing statements and stuff. And remember, 8 o'clock is the deadline for that money. Okay. Okay. Anyway, Slung and Stu, go ahead.
So I mostly align with Parallax on this. The one thing I would add, I'm okay with anyone spending an unlimited amount on any advert they want, but the interaction with the representatives is the part that I want to remove. And I think that will give people more faith in the representatives. And then if the people see something that they really feel strongly about, they can then take that to representatives and say, we would like to see more of this in our area.
Okay. Any
No,
responses
I agree.
to any of this?
I just want to say I agree with your caveat. I'm totally fine with
I
all the advertising money you want.
I do want to say one thing. I think people have brought up unions a bunch of time, which I think is hilarious, because unions are just basically organized crime and socialists. And they don't have problems with unions giving out money to these people, but and the mob just giving out money. But whenever it's private citizens and super PACs and PACs giving out money, all of a sudden it's an issue. That's really what it just sounds like. A lot of crying a wolf is what this really is.
Okay.
So Gibbs just gave us that he's against the unions. Sorry, against unions.
Yeah, you know what?
lobbying,
Actually,
right?
I'm gonna build a bridge. I'm
against unions too, actually.
I'm gonna build a bridge. I'll vote in with some of y'all's anti-lobbying if we agree we have to abolish all unions. Sound good?
No.
Oh well, okay. Then I guess we're not building
Even
a
the
bridge.
police union?
Yeah, but ban them all, burn them all. No unions.
Especially the police union.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
Yeah, especially. Hold on, I'm from Texas. Why do you think I'd be in favor of that? I don't trust any government, much less the police.
Gang, it has been a robust discussion, and we're going to get to closing statements. We might have an open beforehand or not. I don't know yet. But gang, if you've enjoyed the show, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching me on Twitch or Kick, hit that follow button. It really helps the algorithm, helps me go through. The more likes I get, right? The more likes, the more the algorithm pushes the show and people can see me. And I'd like people to see me because, gang, this was a great conversation. But before we go, I want to give each of these individuals an outro. I put all links to their channels in the description of this YouTube video, so you can go there and you can click on their names. And you can go and I encourage you to do this. To go give them a sub, right? Give them a like, give them a follow, all that things. Reward them for being on my show because I do really appreciate it. We got a great show tomorrow too at 6 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be having on Eucharist. We're going to have on JMac. We're going to have on Harmony Ginger and Gelatinous Rube, and we're going to be talking about story-based D&D campaigns versus sandbox D&D campaigns. Which are better? Which should we lean on more? And that should be a fun little nerd discussion for you all. So tune in, right? It should be great. But let's get some closing statements. We'll start with Tyler and we'll end with Slongy and Stu. Tyler, closing thoughts. What you got?
All right. Well, first closing thought is all this D&D talk makes me want to take your lunch money. Going into going into my next point here, I think that Lactoid probably did a better job than I did for proving that this is just a specialization, that these people are good at their job, probably the best, former people in Congress are probably the best to go in and lobby Congress for the needs of these special interest groups they represent. Everybody uses these, left-wingers, right-wingers, small groups, big groups. I think putting it in the hands of the government takes it away from the people. You will see significantly less, if no more, grassroots political movements if you put it into the hands of the government. I don't think AOC would have been elected if it was in the hands of the government, maybe just because her opponent would have known she was coming. Just I don't like this idea of I don't even know if it's constitutional federally to put this in the hands of the government. I think that the people should run their own elections, and I like that the DNC and RNC are both private. And I like that we can contribute to their campaigns for light money. As for dark money, a lot of the things that these people said here that on the other side are correct. There is a lot of shady things that go on around the dark money. I think we should have to force all these people's names to be out there at the very least. If you want to give lots and lots of money to adjacently help anonymously, I don't think you should be able to remain anonymous. So, but I do think touching it is a free speech issue. So just more transparency and keep it the way it is.
Okay, where can people find you?
Average Debate Enjoyer, Twitter, YouTube. I got new shit coming, and I'm gonna do a video series giving you like an honest look into what the policies of Joe Biden and Trump actually are on every issue, taking all the hyperbole and partisan bullshit away.
Well, thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. Next up, Admiral Gibbs.
Hey, so I want to say all this talk has inspired me. I've now started a super PAC. It's going to be called the Gibbs Caring Foundation. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be pushing for every private citizen's right to own a nuke. And that way we can make sure that everybody is good and we can make sure we can really get things done. Secondly, unions are evil, organized crime, socialists. Don't have them. They're bad. Lobbying's base, corruption. It sounds bad on the surface, but really that's just people looking out for themselves. You should look out for yourself all the time. It's always the best. I'm Admiral Gibbs. And if you like making money and you want to make more of it, you should follow me. Guess what? I don't like Nancy Pelosi, but I follow her stock choices on Twitter. And guess what? She makes some great stock choices. If I follow some other politicians, they make some great ones. And whenever you want to make more money, follow your favorite politician's stock choices. And if they're successful, you'll be successful. You're welcome. That's Papa Gibbs. And tonight we're going to be doing a lot more debating. It's going to be good stuff. Thank you.
Check him out, gang. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate you. Alex Kirsch, go ahead.
So this was an interesting discussion. I still remain unconvinced about the pro-lobbyist side, essentially. It's arguments that I've heard before, but yet, for example, the issue didn't get addressed as far as what about those that basically they've said, oh yeah, cut regulations. That's not going to solve anything, honestly. So I just remain unconvinced about this. I think there should be more checks and balances, more accountability, and that would probably solve, and that would probably make me more pro-lobbyist, essentially, if there's more checks and balances in place, which Tyler himself actually brought up, which I thought, respect for that. So where you can find me actually is on YouTube and Twitch on the X platform. Every Saturday I do a show, Current Events on Tap, where I bring on a guest. We each have 2 topics. We talk beer, alcohol, whatever beverage you want to. And for like an hour or 2, we'll talk. I pick 2 topics. You pick 2 topics. It's a good faith discussion. It can be whatever topic you want to talk about, and I'll talk about whatever I want to talk about. I'll let you know what the topics are ahead of time. It's a good faith discussion, and everybody here on this panel has an open invite. If you want to, if you're interested, just shoot me a message after this. Other than that, I also do one-on-ones. I'll be doing more one-on-ones in the future. If you're interested in collaborating sometime, just shoot me a message. Hey, it's a great time. We can have a good faith discussion.
Check him out, gang. Thank you for being here. Give him a follow. Lactoid, please.
Yeah, you can find me on Lactoid TV, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube. General thoughts on lobbying. You can't get rid of it without freedom of speech. You have a difficult time regulating it without infringing upon freedom of speech. I think there is an issue with money in politics. I will reiterate, I don't think that politicians should be able to own stocks. It is a public job. We get to set the job description for all of these positions, so we can simply put in the job description that you can own stocks in these positions. That way you remove, I think, the actual kind of corruption and bribery that I'm trying to avoid, but that you do let politicians be responsive to what people push for. Yeah, thanks for having me on, Wick, and thanks to the rest of you for talking to me.
Oh, thanks for being here. Give him a follow, gang. Check him out, Lactoid TV. Parallax, go ahead.
It's been a while. It was good to be back. Thank you for having me, Wick. You can find me at twitch.tv/parallax. I mostly play games. Yeah, come join us, hang out. Feel free to bring up any of this kind of stuff. All that kind of discussion is welcome in the channel. I'm a little disappointed we didn't touch on what I think is one of the primary issues with lobbying. Nobody addressed it. It was in my opening statement, which is that it takes the interest of government action away from the public and to the private sector. We didn't really touch on that as much as I'd have liked to have, and therefore nobody has done a thing to move me away from where I was when I came in here. So thanks for having me. It was a pleasure, and I'll see you soon.
Check him out, gang. Give him a follow. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. Rashad Crenshaw, go ahead.
My name is Rashad Crenshaw. You can find me on YouTube. Lobbying's great. The end.
Fair enough. Check him out, gang. Short and sweet. Last but certainly not least, Slongy and Stu. Give us what you got.
So I am Stu from the Slongy and Stu YouTube channel. Feel free to check us out. Thanks again, Wick, for having us on the panel. And I think it's important for any republic to stand and last the test of time. That the people have to have faith in the institutions. And whilst there's a suspicion of any corruption from via lobbying, dark money, or however you want to say it, then people are going to have less faith in those institutions. So I hope we can all agree that lobbying is bad.
Well, thank you. Where can people find you?
It's on YouTube, Slongy and Stu.
Thank you. Give them a follow, gang. It's been great. Gang, we've had a great show. I've enjoyed it. I'm hungry. I'm going to go play with my dog. Tomorrow, remember, 6 p.m. Eastern, okay? 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, we're going to have a debate on sandbox campaigns versus narrative-driven campaigns. Which is better? Which is more entertaining? Which leads to better games? Oh, man, you think people were mad tonight? These discussions bring out the nerd rage, and I'm looking forward to it. Tune in. It'll be fun. It'll be great. We're going to raid out. We're right into the only true conservative that I know, Counterpoints. And make sure you tell them that it is a hate raid. And yeah, we'll see you guys later.
See ya.
Bye.
Did you say you're
Take care.
hungry? Did you say you're hungry and you're gonna go play with your dog? Are those connected thoughts?
Not
That's
at all.
us.
I'm not going to eat my
You
dog.
have an Asian food?
I'm not going to eat my dog.
Okay.
See you later. Bye.
Catch you guys later.
I felt good to have Rashad on the side of moral correctness today. I'm pretty happy about it.
I do want to do, and since you guys are all here, Gibbs, Lactoid, Crenshaw, the conviction, if it goes through, the Trump trial thing. I've been looking to put together a Trump trial show. I want to do it next week. I don't care if I can't get a big name, right? Like, because I've been waiting to try to get a big name, but I don't give a fuck at this point. I just want to get this together. Would you guys be available like Wednesday or Tuesday or something?
Yeah, I would be down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lactoid?
You didn't name me, so I don't fucking know.
You said next Wednesday?
Wednesday or Tuesday or something, yeah.
Wednesday.
5th or the 4th.
Wednesday, both me and Gibbs already have something.
Yeah, but that's late. That's at 7:30.
Well, wouldn't
This
that
would be 6
overlap?
to 8.
This would be
This,
well, I don't
he
know
just said it'd be 6 to 8, so that would
yeah,
interfere.
but what time zone are you in, Lactoid?
I'm on Central.
So it would be 5 to 8, 5 to 7 for us. So we'd be able to do both.
Oh, forgot. Yeah.
That's why
specific
Letha
Eastern.
and I talked. Letha and I always talked about this. Is like you should put a 30-minute spread so that people can do the shows at 5, and then you can do yours at.
It's
talked about this
possible.
previously.
We would have to like we could only go 30 minutes after though, and then we'd have to leave. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
possible.
I mean, I could. Yeah.
Why not a day when they're
as
not?
long as-
Why
Like
not
I
a day
said,
when they're not occupied?
Tuesday
Yeah,
or Wednesday. I'm
either one works.
okay with
As long as
either.
Because
it's
that could
as long
open
as-
up Someone else might want to jump in
I
on
wanna,
saying
I
that they're
wanna,
actually
I wanna.
As long
available.
as it's your usual time,
I'm
Wick,
gonna,
I
I'm
think that
gonna
me and Lactoid would be
here. I'm
fine.
gonna see because I'm gonna bug Pondering to get in on this one. Just for
But-
clarity's sake, Gibbs, I'm gonna guess your position is this is a sham of a trial that should never have been. Like, is that?
I mean, yeah, it seems like it's collusion at this point. It seems
yeah.
corrupt.
Lactoid, what's your take exactly?
The trumped up
Look,
charges.
I'll get you an informed opinion. I have feelings about it, but I want to make sure I'm not missing the mark because this has to do with something legal, and I
What
feel
are
an
your
obligation.
feelings?
My feelings are that it's bullshit.
Okay,
to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Easy. Rashad, I'm assuming you're okay with the trial.
As of right now, yeah, I gotta swing back again and make
Okay,
sure
you'll look at it the same,
everything's good.
with the same. Yeah, I get you. Okay, fair enough. That's all I
Wow.
need for initially. I will set it up for Tuesday. Let's aim for Tuesday. I'm gonna tap Hutch and Pondering Politics, see if they want in on this.
Will the trial be done by Tuesday?
I'm not.
He
They're
opened this up
deliberating
by
now.
saying if the verdict comes down, you fucking goofball.
Yeah, that's
Sure,
what I'm
but
saying.
even if it doesn't, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I think it will. I think
That's what I was
it
asking.
will by then. But even if it doesn't, I think it's still going to be worth talking about. Maybe I'll try to get Rob Knorr on this too for you guys.
He'll be.
That's
he'll
what I
be-
figured you
he'll be
meant by
good.
big name.
No, that's not who I meant by big name. I was shooting for the stars on this one. Okay, right. I was looking for some big people. But
Like I think if it happens immediately after the verdict, it'll be.
You know what I found?
You'll get
was
way
interesting?
like.
yeah,
Get
but
more
when is
people.
the verdict?
There's no way to know.
Next week.
You know what you could
That's
try
the thing.
Wick?
So let's tentatively say Tuesday. Damn, I don't know.
Have you
Shit.
tried reaching out to like a local politician for like something like that? They would be more than willing to go on. I like know that from experience.
A local politician? What do you mean?
So like I've had previously, like it's been about a year or so, but like before I came even to your space, I had a Texas he was a Texas representative in the Texas House that would come on my show all the time before he got like Epstein, and like so there was like a few people that we would come on. Yeah, it's a whole story. It's not really Epstein. It's just he had a bad moment, I guess. But long story short, we like there are local people that are like definitely are always looking to get like on anything just to get their name out there. And they don't care about the numbers are because it's like content for them that they can use. Like I mean, if you could look like ask a local person running for office
Maybe.
if they want to get on. there.
I'll tell you what. I'm gonna DM Rob Knorr right now. See when he can do it. The only day I can't do it next week is Thursday. I already have a plan for the 6th day of the 6th month at the 6th hour. I have a plan for that. Okay, but other than that, I'm pretty free. And I want to get this done. I want to get the dream team here. It would be Destiny, Hutch, Rashad versus Rob Knorr, Lactoid, Gibbs. That would be the dream.
That's
We'll see.
crazy lineup.
Again, that's the dream. I don't know if
If-
Yeah,
if you
it's very one sided. This side's gonna win.
yeah, but we'll see what we could do. Anyway, we'll see you later. Bye.
Next up, Bob.
Catch you guys
See
later.
you, gents.
Good shit.
Yeah, how does
It was
it feel
fun,
to be on
gentlemen.
the morally correct side today, Rashad? Did you feel?
Yeah, it was good to have you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was waiting for the day I'd be teamed up with the two of y'all because I've only ever been your adversary. So I was like, man, like to be on that side of the I converted to liberalism this year, so to
Mm.
kind of
What were you
What's
before?
your bad?
What were
What's
you
your-
before?
I was more conservative, more diluted, more lost, but now I'm
Come
found.
back to us. Come back to us. We're the right side. You were
See,
right the first time.
I used to be left wing, but then I abandoned the delusion and came to where I'm at now. So it's weird. I don't know what you're talking about.
You breathed in something, and when we pass universal healthcare, finally, we'll figure out what it is you inhaled, and we'll sort
No,
it all out.
I think the
See,
parasite naturally passed is what happened, and then like the frontal faculties started, the brain started coming back
That's
online.
What it was, you started
Lactoid.
making money. What it was.
Lactoid, I know some things about you that lead me to believe that there are definitely some parasites involved here.
No, absolutely. What the fuck does that
Listen,
mean?
It means
There's
it means if you don't have court or a stream tomorrow, I know what's not happening.
I don't know what you're
I have
talking
nothing.
Yeah, you do.
Do I
Hold on.
I eat a lot of sushi. Is that
Is he hitting his girl with a spinning back fist, or like what's
Damn.
the like what's
No.
the accusation?
No, no. He
Yeah,
knows what
when-
I'm getting at.
That sounded nefarious. Why did someone in chat call me gay?
fuck?
Someone in chat. Who's chat?
in Wick's chat was like,
Oh, wait.
the
You don't-
Ukraine said must be gay.
You don't get a. I think that was me because it's a Swedish flag. It's not a Ukrainian flag, but for some reason people think it's. By the way, you can't catch a parasite by not showering. Parallax. What?
Listen, I'm just
You don't
saying.
shower?
He's saying you don't shower.
I do shower.
That is, yeah.
Like,
he
I
showers.
mean,
if you
he has
did
to
Just
would
stream-
be
when I
okay.
have to, okay? And if I don't have to
so
for a
if
few
he
days,
has
I
a
don't.
Stream appearance or court.
That's disgusting.
Well,
What
I'm
do you mean
not
that's
recording or
disgusting?
streaming, so that
Well, I'm
that's
recording. I'm
regular.
streaming. I'm not ashamed of this. If I have nobody to see
I'm sure you
and
do.
nothing to do for like 2 or 3 days, I'm saving the water.
I mean,
That's gross.
okay, in that case, I mean, I would shower, but I respect the fiscal
yeah.
concerns.
Look, if I see
Or-
somebody, right, or if I'm going out, or if I have to look, yeah, I'll for sure shower because I'm
Check
being
this out, Lactoid.
conscientious towards other
Lactoid,
people.
you believe in capitalism, right?
No,
Yeah, so
no,
why don't
I-
you just do this cool thing, which is make more money, and then you can afford a shower more than once every 3 days? Like,
Of course.
I just
mean-
have one question for you, Lactoid. When is the last time your sheets were either changed or washed?
We're not going to talk about this on stream. It's kind of disgusting.
that's gross. And you
just
sleep without showering.
just lie, like just
Nah,
say.
I don't
"Fuck
lie.
it."
I don't lie. I'm not a liar. I
Hey,
plead the
so
fifth.
did you? By the way, on that note, did you try these cigars?
I have one. I haven't tried it yet though. I'm waiting for a special occasion.
Where the
Alright,
fuck are
gentlemen.
these little streams y'all do?
It was a
See
pleasure.
you, big dog.
Take care.
We do all sorts of stuff. You want to do some?
I mean, pause. I don't know. Like, I see you guys doing your thing all the time, and I'm like, that's adorable. But I'm like, they must be meeting on like the underground tunnels and talking in like Morse code and shit. Because I'm like, I never even hear anything. Like,
I mean, I'll just start inviting you if you want on some of them. I mean, I'm always looking for people to.
yeah, I mean, y'all are like debating every other minute of the day, and I'm like, what the fuck are they doing over there?
Well,
like,
luckily for us, there's not very many of us conservatives. Like, there's me and Lactoid and Rob, and then KOE, and then there's some people that call themselves that. But
I've been trying to get
Scott
more
is
talent to
kinda-
Wick.
Scott is a communist.
Okay, I know you don't like him. Okay, but he is not a communist. Okay.
Yes, he is. He openly advocated for Ayn Rand communes, like the week before that. That is communism.
No.
See, I'm never even
He's an
around to
anarchist
know.
You're not
I'm
missing
never
much
even
with-
consistent
you're not missing
enough.
much with Scott. I'll give Scott a pass. He can maybe be a conservative.
Okay.
He's like
that's all I'm
he's like
saying.
almost he's so far on the horseshoe theory. He's like coming almost out on the other side though. Like
What is this app y'all are using? I see like blue screen and like what is that? Google Chat or some shit?
listen, if you're asking me about apps, you got the wrong boomer.
Wait, what are you
No,
talking
I mean
about?
I see some of y'all's like your little chats are on Discord, but then some of them are on this weird like app with like blue background and everyone's mic looks muted, but you're not muted because I can hear y'all.
You're talking about Primes? Yeah, he uses StreamYards.
Oh, I hate that.
Oh,
shit.
StreamYards.
StreamYards, yeah,
Oh,
it's a
okay.
service, and I guess he just prefers it. The names come up, so maybe that's the reason why.
Okay. Yeah. I see that. I don't know why we can't see the names on Discord for Wickstream. Discord needs to fix that, but
Yeah, I actually
I've been
agree with
trying to
you.
get-
but
That's on
I've been
your
trying to
side.
get Wick more conservative people. I've been trying to get him to like recruit, like if you guys know some conservative streamers,
us.
get them in.
It's us.
Well, there's
it's-
y'all. You
it's
don't want to share the
it's
limelight.
kind of
I
a,
see.
no. Like it is. It's not that we don't want to share the limelight. It's
Yeah,
that
there's-
Twitch
I
is like
mean-
an overwhelmingly left wing space.
That's
Like the
true.
right wingers are probably they're off doing non Twitch stuff because they've been banned because they
The
said
only,
stuff.
in
Ah,
fact,
yeah.
even some of them, like what's his name, the gay guy that's like gays for Gaza, but he's like everything else is super conservative. What's it, Gorpsing? Like he just got banned for like 12 days. And
He
just
got
came back.
really.
Yeah, he just got unbanned like 2 or 3 days ago. But like even he got banned, and he's like, like this is why when I'm in my channel, like when I'm doing stuff, I do a lot of DGen stuff as well as like politics. But like for example, I had a non Twitch poll person on, and he uses dude and bro just like everyday language, and I had I don't remember what the Vivian whatever the cat. And she was on, and like Vivian likes me as like much as she likes any conservative. And I was like, I was like over policing. I'm like, hey, you can't say dude, bro, non-gendered because like you're misgendering them after they've already said what they're gender. Like I over police, and I think that's the only reason I haven't been banned. Right? Like Lactoid, I don't know how he hasn't got banned. He's a bastard.
I don't say anything bannable. That's why.
Yeah, we know how to skirt it. That's what some of these other people don't.
Yeah, I mean, I wish there was more conservatives around because I see potential in this debate shit. I mean, I see a lot of room for growth. I just wish that there was like conservatives who were really hard hitting like content creators, because I don't see anybody else who's coming in the game and really uploading on that's conservative, and we just need more. We need more momentum. You know what I mean? We need more fucking competition. You know, there's too many left wing people in here. So
I
the
agree.
more
I
of
agree
you,
with
you know,
everything you're saying. Like it's like there's not very much debate. Like
There's too many left-wing people on the planet.
on Earth.
Yeah, that's.
we should do something about them. No,
Yeah, we should.
I mean, no, I mean,
I knew you were coming
See,
back to us.
statements like that is what we're talking about.
what do you mean? What we're talking about?
You know, like what? Like someone told me the other day, you can't say glass a specific country, but you can say glass a region, and that's Twitch appropriate. I was like, and so
I would
looked
just
it up.
avoid glassing language.
I would, yeah, I
generally.
would just be like, yeah, I would just avoid saying
Oh, like
glass.
oh,
And
yeah.
just say we're gonna sit into the B-52s instead. It's much easier.
Okay, I need to clarify. I, Rashad Crenshaw, do not support genocide. I just want to make that clarification today. That was a joke, which will not be repeated. I promise.
He was. His previous job was as a radio anchor in Rwanda. And so be careful when he says this. He's got a lot of experience.
Rwanda's a crazy choice. I'm sure there's plenty of Rwandans with the last name Crenshaw.
I don't know about the Crenshaw part. I was talking about not endorsing genocide because if they know who did it was the radio announcers over there.
That's an interesting factoid.
Yeah, they all got tried with. Yeah, they got tried with war crimes.
Didn't they say someone recently was like, someone said like the ICC is for Africa or some shit. And then I went on there and I just saw a bunch of black. I just kept scrolling and I just saw was black man, black man, black man, black man, black man, black man, black man. No further comment. I'm just saying it's an interesting statement made by someone on the right. Would you guys like to clarify? Clarify these comments, man. What's going on?
We know history and that you're advocating for genocide.
Wait, what statement? What statement?
That's what I was clarifying.
There was some GOP guy that was like, the ICC is for Africa or some shit, which was funny. And then I went on the ICC, like who they're charging, and just black man, black man, black man, black man from Africa. I was like, oh shit, maybe this guy's saying something. Which let me clarify, I do not believe the ICC is for black people. I was just surprised. Is it the ICJ or some shit?
Which politician said this?
I can't remember who it was, but I saw it. Somebody said like the ICC is for Africa or some shit.
Are you talking about the International Council of Christians and Jews?
No, the ICJ. I think I meant the ICJ. Yeah, wait, no, the ICC. Yeah, somebody said the ICC is only for Africa and thugs like Putin. Which is
are you talking about the criminal court? I do know the. Listen, those are for countries that aren't the superpower. We didn't fight 2 world wars and win for the ICC to be able to tell us diddly.
I'm not gonna be seen on camera saying that you're right.
I mean, I'm absolutely right. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, rules for thee, but not for me is a reality of life. But I would never condone such a thing.
Yeah, it goes. America, our bitches at the in NATO, our bitches in the UN, ICC works for all those guys. That's what it works. That's how that order works.
By the way,
they're like 4 levels down.
I wanted to say, Rashad, your aesthetic is very much conservative. By the way, when I first saw you, I expected like conservative takes, and then you shocked me. I think the eagle
I told
in
you
the
I
background.
converted. Okay, well, this is the United States Virgin Islands. Okay, and then the American flag's here, but it's out of shot. I was a conservative. I was. And I saw big money. I thought I was gonna get signed to the Daily Wire. I thought I was gonna be like, like a Young Money, Cash Money kind of, like record deal. I thought I was gonna get millions of dollars. The black male version of Brett Cooper. It didn't work out that way. And now I'm stuck here with you two debating politics when I could be making millions, surrounded by the Daily Wire and the people that fund them. That was not a Jewish comment. And I said I'm here with y'all. So we are where we are.
It's okay. We're gonna make the Gibbs version, but you have to come back to conservatism so you can be my male Candace Owens. How does that sound?
That is crazy, but that's kind of how it works. Like, you need that one black person that's willing to just shit on their own race to get the ball rolling. Because if you don't,
she is doing good for low-income families. She's doing what's best, which is conservative.
She tried to take that same energy for black people and move it to Jewish people, and they had to remind her, Candace, we hired you for one specific thing. Now you're getting a little bit out of the realm of what we hired you for. Could you please stop? And she wouldn't stop.
She
So
was a very strong African American woman, and she came back and gave what's his name the hands and said she wouldn't back down on the Jewish issue.
yeah, she was
She
she was your African American, but then
mine.
she's
She's America's
well,
African American.
well, she switched on you guys. She switched. She started talking about, she started saying a lot of anti-Semitic stuff, and she started acting a little different, and but the point of the matter is, she was what every conservative media outlet usually looks for, that one person of color. I like to call them pets of Caucasians. That one person who just the one person who's just willing to shit on just specifically Black Americans, not any other minority group, but just Vivek's that guy too. He's really good at that.
What do you think about Juan on Fox News? Juan, I can't think of his last name though.
Juan was the first generation. Juan's not as good as the new guys like Vivek. Vivek's the new thing. Vivek's new and improved. Vivek is the better person of color. And frankly, I don't know why y'all need to reprimand Ann Coulter, because she said the stuff that you guys aren't supposed to say out loud. She should have kept that one under tuck. Why she said that one out loud, you guys need to fix that. I thought there was an understanding between you guys and the conservatives of color to never say, you're not going to be president, right? You guys weren't supposed to tell
you know who told me that on Wix after the second presidential debate? I was on the. Do you know who Nina is? I was sitting there saying, "Hey, my parents, they old school Texans, kind of probably the ones y'all would think about. They were all sitting there saying they like Vivek a lot." And Nina goes, "Y'all conservatives will never vote for a person of color." I'm like, that's racist. Like,
is it really racist to say you guys don't want to? Y'all aren't ready for a Ramaswamy guy in office?
Republicans in general would vote for Satan if it was better than fucking Biden. If it was up against Biden,
I don't think Ramaswamy's. Ramaswamy's a family man. Ramaswamy is a religious man. He's a billionaire. He's got no cases. He doesn't have multiple baby mamas. He doesn't have a warrant for his arrest in Iran. This guy is just the perfect candidate, but there's just something missing, something pale, something light, something blue-eyed, something European is missing. That man is your guys' perfect candidate, and he didn't win because one, Trump is his ultimate opponent, and he's not white.
I have a hot take. We're going to change the subject slightly. Are you ready for this, Lactoid? I think George Bush, if he didn't have the history, and he was coming as a new candidate, ran right now, would be one of the most popular candidates ever, just because of TikTok.
He would get obliterated.
Have you seen any of his videos? He's like, "Oh, yes, we're going to do this and this with the terrorists, yada, yada, yada. We can't let a women. Now watch this putt." And then he goes back there and knocks out like a 89-yard putt. That shit's perfect for TikTok.
Trump would eviscerate him. You saw what he did to Jeb.
Yeah. Also, are we talking about George Bush's opinions back when he was president? Because we got to keep in mind, you can't have a presidential candidate going out there talking about how marriage is between a man and that doesn't work anymore. That's not a.
Well, they can moderate him up a little bit. He didn't really care.
The more moderate he is, the more he'll lose. He's the god of rhinos.
He wasn't. He didn't really believe in that. That was just what they were making him push.
Gibbs, he's the patron saint of rhinos. Him and Romney. There's no way he'd win.
He's the patron saint of the neocons. He
was charismatic though, much more charismatic than Jeb.
There's never been a better neocon Republican president than George Bush. Let me just go ahead and say that.
But you guys had Haley.
No, hold on. We had Bill Clinton, right? If we want to talk about
Haley's
neocons.
brown and she's a woman. You know how many brownie points you guys would have gotten if she had been the.
Terrible. She's terrible.
Is she though?
Yeah, she didn't have the Dick Cheney killer.
She's she's a Raytheon puppet,
Chill?
which I love the fact that she's a shill for the military industrial complex. Why did you guys pick her?
She's awful. She sounds like 1,000. When she opens her mouth, I hear 1,000 screeching harpies telling me that I should never vote for this person.
Would you say she's acting menstrual?
I would say.
Oh God! Oh my God!
Say maybe how Rashad described her. I would.
Okay, to clarify for all those looking to get at me. Menstrual, not menstrual.
It was funny,
as a black man, it was funny to have my words misinterpreted, and that was funny. Yeah, look, which reminds me, when are you guys gonna tell Marjorie Taylor Greene to just chill out? She's trying to get Johnson out.
Have you seen her rap video? She's pretty good.
I'm not gonna lie. If any politician had an entertaining rap video, it was Marjorie. Can y'all please tell her to stop? Come on.
Well,
Like,
they tried. What was that? I can't think of the new girl. I like the new girl that on the Dims that said this the other day. Whenever she's like, so just to clarify, you would
Trump,
call her a bitch, bitchy,
a,
broke
a
white,
blonde,
whatever,
bad built,
blonde.
butch
Yeah,
body.
Butch Body.
Yeah.
I was like, damn. I like hate her policies, but I'd smash. That's great.
If you guys, I'm not gonna lie. If you guys had her, we'd be in trouble.
Yeah,
But you
she's
don't.
good.
So
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I,
you
I
guys
do
have
think
We got
Marjorie.
we got like Condoleezza Rice and fucking what's her name, and I can't think of the
But you
name of
get
the scholar,
diversity
right?
points. You have
Yeah.
diversity points.
Oh, have you seen her smile? She's another lizard person, just like just like what's his name, that fucking guy from Florida, DeSantis. I was never a conspiracy theorist, but after I watched DeSantis, people were like, oh, he's got these platforms on to be taller. No, he's got the platforms on because he's a lizard. I mean, he
You,
can't
you
figure
know
out how
what?
to smile, and he's trying to like look like a human. That's a lizard.
You know
How can you
what?
go
You're
this
gonna
white?
like you're gonna like what I'm gonna say. You're gonna like what I'm gonna say. DeSantis is a traitor. He's a snake. Trump gave that man a career, and DeSantis had the audacity to say,
Well, I
I
like
might run
DeSantis.
for president. This man Trump was fighting all sorts of legal battles, all kind of folk coming at him, all
He should
type
have
of
waited.
heat every time. And then here come to say, I think I'll run for president. After this man gave you your career, you think you're gonna run for president? DeSantis is a snake.
He
It's just
should
the
have
truth.
waited.
I mean, he should have waited, but he snaked Trump, and I don't even like Trump. I don't even want Trump to win. But the fact that
Yeah.
DeSantis snaked
It sounds like
Deontay in
you
that
should come
way,
back on over here.
no, just because I feel for the L's y'all take sometimes. Does it, like, for example, your VP that had the plastic surgery, she could have been the one. She got the plastic surgery. She looked like she was quiet. She didn't say anything.
Sarah
Why
oh
did she
the
no
dog thing.
know him? Why did she brag about killing her dog and her goat and then threaten to kill Joe Biden's dog?
Hold on.
I
Kill the
want to
dog
wish
and
my
the goat thing.
condolences. I just want to like make my condolences known. So many of you guys as candidates and VPs to be aren't all the way there mentally. And I know that Trump, as he's dealing with all these legal battles, every time he looks up to see a new candidate losing their mind, it can't be good for his health. I just want to let you guys know, I feel for you.
Republicans are the ones that run candidates that aren't all there mentally. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
We have our crazies under control. Okay, the squad could be worse. The squad could be worse.
No. I'm talking about, what did her report say?
He's
Something
like
about
terrorist
can't remember anything, forgetful.
Omar is a terrorist.
Joe Biden might have one foot in the grave and with Trump 2 combined. But the reality is, Joe Biden, in spite of him being on the verge of might not necessarily be on this earth anymore, Joe Biden is still a much more effective, in my opinion, president as it pertains to maintaining democracy. Donald Trump, by the way, I saw your boy. He was on stage and he had a 15-second pause where he couldn't speak. It looks like he might have caught the dementia from Joe. So y'all might want to figure that one out.
Hey, but okay,
When
I'm
did
just
that
gonna use the
happen?
same. Hold on, I'm gonna use the same argument that Wick does. It's not about Joe. It's the fact that he's put such a good team around it. Donald Trump is a proven billionaire. He's a proven that his economy was good under Trump. It's the team that around Trump that we're actually voting for. Much like the Democrats always tell me, it's the team
No,
around
you don't get
Biden.
to use the team argument for Trump because
I just did.
y'all's argument is that Trump is in his right fucking mind,
Well, he
which
is.
I think he's starting to have those signs. He's starting to pause during speeches. He's starting to show those signs. You can't sit there and say Trump's fully in his right mind. He's healthy. He's not suffering from any kind of conditions. And then sit there and say it's the team around Trump. We get to use the team argument because our guy is demonstrably losing it. We've seen him fall up the stairs, down the stairs, on the stage. We get to sit there and talk about the team because we acknowledge our guy is not even mentally present.
Yeah,
You don't get to use that argument.
Trump's team is the outsiders, bro. That's the secret.
Yeah, well, you guys romanticize this whole, the people, populism, the people. Frankly, I think the establishment, I love the establishment.
I do too.
I gotta bounce, guys. I'll catch you guys later.
I also have to
See you
bounce in
later,
about
big dog.
3 minutes. But yeah,
The establishment is God's work.
I'm gonna pause you on this one real quick, and we'll talk about it soon. Hey, so because I only got 5 minutes, and I know you wanted to get on other panels. If you want to get on other panels, I'll just start messaging you and be like, "Hey, I got a guy," and then I'll be like, "Hey, this guy," and then.
What's up? All right. Good shit. Thanks for tuning in. Looks like we got a bunch of debates next week now. We got Monday, probably Tuesday, Wednesday. So, yeah. Trump trial and what is a Republican? What is a conservative? It's somewhat unclear what the actual specific topic is, but something about what is what. So that'll be fun. So yeah, a bunch of content next week. Obviously, if I get a chance to stream this week more, I'll be posting on Discord and Twitter. All of you who gave subs and bits and all that good shit, thanks. I hope you liked the content today, and we're gonna raid on out. Actually. We're gonna raid on out into. I think Rob thinks the panel's today. Yeah, he just acknowledged that he saw that it was pushed back. But he thought it was today. Quick debate review. Yeah, I mean, the conclusion basically, I think, speaks for itself. I think lobbying there's issues with money in politics, but lobbying, I don't actually think is one of them. I think it's important to allow people to speak their mind. And if a bunch of people get together and hire spokespeople this is what people do with lawyers. There's a reason why there's so much crossover between lobbyists and lawyers. It's because a lawyer is hired by somebody to represent their interests. That's the point. You are an advocate. You are a spokesperson for that person. So, yeah, I stand by everything I said. Yeah, I'm looking at Rob's stream right now. Did Rob cancel the debate? They pushed it back. Oh, that's so sad. He was probably ready to. Well, I don't know if he's going to keep streaming then. We'll raid on it. We'll raid on out into Rob. Looks like he might be doing some content going forward, and if he's not, then he'll raid y'all into something cool. So. Yeah, and never mind. I got nothing else. Have a good night.